Blank check with Griffin and David. Blank check with Griffin and David. Don't know what to say or to expect. All you need to know is that the name of the show is Blank Check.
You know how I know it's the end of the world? Everything's already been done. Every kind of music's been tried. Every kind of government's been tried. Every fucking hairstyle, bubblegum flavors, breakfast cereal. What are we going to do? How are we going to make another 1,000 years? I'm telling you, man. It's podcast.
I think that's true. I think he was right.
Right? Pretty prescient opening.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. My name is Griffin Newman.
I'm David Sims.
This is Blank Check with Griffin and David. We are hashtag the two friends, and this is a podcast about filmographies. Directors who have massive success early on in their career and then are granted a series of blank checks to make whatever crazy passion projects they want. Sometimes those checks clear. Sometimes they bounce. Baby.
This is a bouncer.
This is a bouncer. And this is also a different kind of blank check than we've ever dealt with before.
Sure.
This is someone kind of coming in as like Lux Alptrum in our Point Break episode. Coined a new term for us, the sort of guarantor.
Okay.
The movie that gives you the cachet.
Right.
But this is a weird, like, blank check team up.
It is. Yes, one person is sort of cutting a little bit of his blank check.
Right. To someone else who had, like, earned a partial blank check.
It's a weird set of circumstances making this movie, but this check bounces.
I would say it's a strange set of circumstances.
Sure. Uh-huh.
This is a miniseries about the films of Catherine Bigelow. It's called Pod 19, The Widowcaster, and today we're talking about the movie that almost completely ended her career.
Yeah.
It is called Strange Days.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Strange Das. Thank you for the correction. Man, do I have egg on my face.
Thank you for the correction, unnamed guest.
Yep. The movie is called Strange Das, and boy, do we have a guest today. She is, of course, the mother of Blankies.
That is true.
Hello, my children.
Her number one title.
Mm-hmm.
She's also a film critic for Vulture.
That's right. Three times on blank check, three different jobs.
Yeah.
That's right. You keep bouncing from job to job.
The New York media world has been good to me, baby.
No, it's been 4 at this point, hasn't it?
So
yeah, sure. Tell her how many jobs she's had.
No. Oh, I mean,
4 times
blank
on
checks.
the pod. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So 2 with one job, 1 with another one, and then this one.
That's
okay.
right. Yeah, sure. Yeah,
That's impressive, though. Most of our guests, they come on. We have our favorite guests or repeat guests, and they come on, and we have to list the same fucking credits over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
They keep us on our toes.
Yeah. No, I'm like Lenny Nero. I've gone from being a cop in one life to I don't know.
And you got a lot of fake Rolexes.
Yeah.
A
lot of hats.
This is also your first solo episode since your first episode.
Yeah, that's true.
Wow. You're usually on our like supersized.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate that you guys think that I'm worthy. You think that I can, hold an episode up on my own because I've really been working so hard for so long to deserve such a position. So thank you guys from the bottom of my heart.
It was never an issue of that, okay? No one looks at Brad Pitt and goes, maybe he's not a leading man because he's playing third fiddle in Ocean's 11. It's saying, let's add even more juice to this mix. Do you know what I'm saying?
No, I understand.
We were saying, let's make some episodes blockbusters. Let's throw a little Emily Yoshida in the mix.
Well, I appreciate it. Hopefully this one doesn't bounce.
Never.
The episode, impossible for this episode to bounce.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of your favorite movies?
It became my favorite movie or one of my favorite movies about 3 months ago when I saw it for the first time.
Okay.
I saw this film at MoMA. They were doing a series of I think the series was called Future Imperfect, and they were showing a lot of fantastic movies that I love, and that was one where I was like, well, I've never seen that before, and this seems like a unique opportunity to get to see it on the big screen, a film print nonetheless, because now I think the only way you can see it is legally is by buying like a used DVD.
Yeah, or like buying like a German Blu-ray. Yeah. It's like, it's impossible.
Yeah, it's impossible. This is one of several films in the series that I feel like is impossible to see.
Driving me insane.
Yeah.
There's 2 that are literally out of print.
Right.
And so coincidental, it's the first time you've done a female director.
It's true.
Running
You
into
can't
these
watch
problems.
her movies.
I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I saw this at MoMA, by myself, and about halfway through. And it's a long movie. There's a lot of movie here.
It's a long
Yeah.
movie.
But I was like, I am watching one of my favorite movies right now. It was like a really great feeling.
So you like dystopian future movies
Yes.
in general. That's one of your...
And I like specifically dystopian future movies set in future versions of LA. Or like future past versions, I guess, in this case.
Yeah, I mean, this movie does ask a big question, which is, what if in the future the whole world was LA?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know this movie only takes place in LA. We only really see LA represented, but LA is presented to be such a hellhole, and the state of the world is presented to be so bad that I just assume transitive property, what's ruined the world is that everything's become LA.
Yeah.
Sure. But I do like that this movie is not like 1999. America is now blah, blah, blah. Like, there's no explanation of anything going on. We're just in LA.
It's very municipal dystopia.
Yes.
I mean, this movie's basically set on 2 blocks.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yes.
Well, they go to the valley at one point.
That's right. That's true.
I think
and they
that's
do drive
where
into
my
the,
favorite club in the world is in the valley,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken. But yeah.
Yeah.
But it is, this movie just kind of says, like, well, this is where we were going. Like, there wasn't, like, an inciting incident.
Sure.
Yeah.
There wasn't a giant, like, shift of, like, from here on out, all blanks will be blank.
Blanks.
You know?
Yeah.
It's just kind of like things kept getting bad.
Yeah, it just is like an economy thing. There's a little bit of the classic exposition on a radio call-in show about, like, oh, the economy's in the toilet and kids are killing kids. And,
Sure.
It's just like, I mean, there's nothing particularly unique there.
I mean,
but-
look, let's say it. It's economic anxiety. This movie's about economic anxiety. That's the only thing that went wrong. That's the only problem in society is economic anxiety.
Yeah.
And if you want to say it's anything else, you're wrong. People just are stressed out about money.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Especially cops.
Especially cops.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? Sometimes people accuse my grandmother of being economically anxious. And I find that offensive because it's just, you have to understand she comes from a more economically anxious time.
I get your joke.
She's not actually actually.
Your grandmother is not alive.
Considering her age, this one is.
Oh, okay. This one is. Okay.
This
All
one
right.
is.
All right.
One of them I'm throwing onto the
Seriously.
under the train tracks for the sake of this joke.
Well, I have to say that I really hope that people will listen to this episode because, like, I haven't listened to as of this recording, you guys have put out
2 now.
big step. Oh yeah, 2.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen either of those movies.
Sure.
You can watch The Love List. It's on Amazon.
I know. I'm going to watch that one, but Near Dark is also another one that's very difficult to
Very
watch.
difficult.
Near Dark's.
And so I haven't listened to them because I want to watch the movies first.
Yeah.
But anyway, I hope everybody listens to this podcast anyway, even if they haven't seen Strange Days.
I mean, look, if we're being completely candid, this miniseries is like a big test of our listeners.
Yeah.
It is. It
Like,
is.
we're doing
you guys
a
gonna
lot
show
of-
up. We're doing movies you can't watch.
Right. Like what
Or
we're
it's hard to watch.
not that this is the point. We want to talk about Catherine Bigelow's movies, but this miniseries also functions as this test of like how many people are actually watching the movies in advance, in preparation, if it's a movie they haven't seen. How many people are listening even if they haven't seen the movie, and how many people totally check out if it's something they cannot watch easily.
Yeah. I mean,
But that's why we needed a superstar like you.
yeah.
We decided to do Bigelow. We said we gotta bring in the mother of blankies.
Of course.
Is this my first one of like a real bouncer?
No, Speed Racer.
Speed Racer.
Oh,
Racer's
yeah,
a
yeah,
bounce.
yeah. That's
Yeah,
right.
Speed
Sorry,
Racer
yeah.
bounce like hell.
Right.
Oh, I love
Right.
Speed
Right.
Racer.
And then the other 2 episodes you've been on are the 2 most successful movies
Right.
of all time.
Yeah.
Sure.
Literally 1 and 3.
One and 3.
1
I
and
only
3.
work
now.
in
Avatar's in the
extremes.
middle
Yeah.
there.
Yes.
Well, we only kind of work in extremes too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mostly. Strange Days.
Yes. So post Point Break, which is for Fox, and was a solid success, and a movie
yes.
that was very well liked.
Yes.
She's got some heat on her.
She's got heat.
But also her ex-hubby is now the most powerful filmmaker on the planet.
Both of these things are true. So James Cameron wrote this movie in 1986. Not this movie that we watched, but like wrote Strange Days.
Right. He wrote
a script.
By his account, he wrote a 90-page treatment.
Sure, he wrote a very long treatment.
He writes these 90-page treatments that are like novels. And he did this for Spider-Man. You can read his like fucking 90-page Spider-Man
Yeah, which is all
treatment.
about how he's like a gooey teenager who's jizzing all over New York City, basically.
And
it's very like it's very
really?
about yes, it's very much about puberty.
I think
yes.
Mary Jane
God.
fucks Doc Ock too. I
Does she?
believe that's
Yeah.
like a plot point is that it's like a love triangle thing.
I mean,
weird.
would that have been Cameron's most sexual movie?
100%.
That's true.
Wow.
I mean, and I'm not sure I want to see Cameron's most sexual movie because Cameron's most sexual movie is probably Avatar.
Right.
I mean, they do, as we mentioned on the Titanic episode, they do invent having sex in a car in Titanic.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's true.
Which Emily noticed.
I saw somebody else actually make that claim, so I was like, I wondered if I had
Stole it from them.
Well, no, I don't remember that person said it before me or no, but I do stand by that as being my own theory. And yeah, correct.
He was also going to do an X-Men movie.
Sure. I mean,
There
you
was
say going to, I mean, he was in the mix or like he thought about it.
But
right?
he also
Yes.
wrote like a 90-page treatment for this.
Yeah.
They announced at one point that he was going to do X-Men and Spider-Man. I think maybe he announced Spider-Man first, then he left Spider-Man for X-Men or the other way around.
Sure.
But he has this thing when he has an idea for a movie, he writes these treatments
Quasi screenplays
that are like longer than or as long as the script would conceivably be, where he's just describing in novelistic terms what's basically happening and the vibe of the thing. And so he writes one of these
junior novelization of Strange Days.
Of course, yes.
Written by Orson Scott Card. No, I don't know.
He writes one of these for Strange Days and leaves it on a shelf.
No, he takes it to Catherine Bigelow, who I'm not sure at what point if in their relationship this was, but they may have been married at the time. She likes the idea. They talk the idea out, right? Right. You know,
and his basic idea, the main thing he was going for, I think, was A, the squid technology, and B, he liked the dynamic of three people on the verge of a new millennium.
Yes.
And it's a woman in love with a man helping him find the woman he loves.
Yeah.
Yes.
They liked that emotional triangle, which
did.
feels very Cameron-y.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's a real Cameron, like, emotional core kind of setup, which then Bigelow brought a lot of shit to.
All true.
Yeah.
So Cameron takes this, they turn whatever, their dialogue turns into this thing. He says it was like a big unwieldy novel. He takes it to Jay Cox, who is a practiced screenwriter. He usually collaborates with Martin Scorsese. He wrote The Age of Innocence.
Marty Scorsese.
Marty Scorsese. He wrote Age of Innocence. He wrote Gangs of New York. He wrote Silence with, and he turns it into a script. And they like this script. So this script is like hanging out. And then in 92, there's the Rodney King trial. I mean, there's the Rodney King beating and the LA riots and the Lorena Bobbitt trial and stuff like that. And Catherine Bigelow's like, I want to weave all this into the script too.
Right.
I think she said that a lot of it got fleshed out when she was doing like cleanup efforts after the riots or something. She was spending a lot of time in South LA.
Yes.
I was involved in the downtown cleanup. You're right. And I was very moved by that experience. You get a palpable sense of the anger and frustration and economic disparity in which we live.
She wanted to make a movie about that feeling that was hanging in the air at that time, which is not too dissimilar from the feeling that I think is hanging in the air right now, culturally, like cyclically, right? There was a thing like in early 90s LA that is very much what's happening in the entire world right now.
Also, Tupac was around.
Sure.
Still.
Yeah, it was a simpler time.
And I think at this point, she decides
this is a good
Mace
vehicle
has
to put
to be
all
an
those
African American character.
Sure.
And she wants to make a movie about female victimization and racial oppression.
Right.
Is what she says in this interview.
So she starts taking what, probably was a kind of clean, straightforward
sci-fi
Cameron idea.
Yeah.
Which then you imagine she worked more of her own themes into it when they developed it further. And now she's saying, like, this is my vehicle to say everything I want to say about the state of the world today.
Yes.
Or at the very least, the state of Los Angeles.
So
he has this crazy light storm.
James Cameron makes T2. He gets this crazy deal, and
it's $500 million.
Sure, but the there's a big deal where he gets to split the True Lies funding with another movie, essentially.
Oh,
so True Lies costs more, but this movie is first budgeted at $30 million. I think it ends up costing like $42 million.
Well, that's the thing. I think the deal was they said you can split $100 million between True Lies
and Strange Days.
And they thought it was going to be 70 and 30.
Right.
And then True Lies ended up being the most expensive movie ever made.
This is true.
It cost like 115.
I can look it up.
100 something.
100 to 120 million.
Right.
Like unknown.
And then Strange Days, which was supposed to cost
30
ended up costing like 45.
Yeah.
So they went way over on these two movies.
Yeah.
And True Lies worked for them, and this did not, and she didn't get to make a movie for 5 years.
Did you hear about the original cast that they had in mind?
No.
Andy Garcia was going to have
I think I
the lead
heard that.
role.
Yeah.
Okay.
Angela Bassett was always their sort of first pick for Mace.
Uh-huh.
And then they wanted Bono to play the Michael Wincott role of the dirty boyfriend who's like a rock producer, which I think would have been tremendous.
That would have been fascinating.
Yeah. I think he would have been really good.
And that's Bono just to, that's like post Achtung Baby, pre All You Can't Leave Behind, when Bono's like a real Titanic fool.
Yeah.
And he's sort of, at first it was like a character he was doing. And then, like, the character seemed to have, disappeared. And you were like, I think Bono might just be an idiot right now.
What was that thing they did on the tour where he played, like, Satan in videos?
Yeah, the Zeus TV tour. Where he would, like, have you ever, I like U2, so I've watched videos.
I've watched a lot of the Zoo TV stuff.
But, where he had his characters, like, The Fly was the one with the wraparound sunglasses. And then he would do this devil character called Macphisto, which has an English accent, which is fucking embarrassing. It's so bad. He like goes down, he's like, hello. And you're like, oh my God, I can't believe this was like the most successful rock tour ever.
He turned an international tour into his Mad TV reel.
Yeah, it really was an extended multi-million-dollar Mad TV reel.
Right.
But it is actually cool. Zoo TV, that's when he would like order pizza like from the stage, and he would like call the White House and be like, it's the future calling or whatever, And the stuff like that,
Yeah, so it was half Mad TV, half Jerky Boys.
Yeah, but no one had ever done shit like that in like a stadium tour. It was weird. It was, and he was like the 90s, like pop. We all like, it was sort of like bad Talking Heads shit, I guess, right? Mm-hmm. Like, how would you describe? Where he's sort of making fun of consumerism, but you're like,
how would you
I don't know if you have an angle on this, Bono.
How would you describe producer Ben? Ben Deucer. Well, Ben, poet laureate, the Haas. Mr. Positive. The Peeper. The Tiebreaker. Meat Lover.
Well,
Fart Detective.
Fuck
Master.
Yeah.
Very well rehearsed.
No, they're just improv.
You're not Professor Chris.
No. I would just say.
You are the poet laureate.
Yeah. So, David's answer.
Or finest film critic.
God damn it.
Jesus, just do it already. Come on.
No, Ben, what were you going to say? Sorry.
No, it's fine.
You graduated certain titles over the course of different miniseries, such as Kylo, Ben Producer, Ben Kenobi, Ben Night Shyamalan, Ben Say Anything, Ailey Benz with the $, Warhaz, and Purdue Urbane.
Yeah, so...
Bono, your take on Bono in the 90s.
It's sort of Talking Heads, I guess.
Sure.
Because it's got that kind of like
we are all robots living in our boxes.
Right, and like sort of world music-y kind of thing too going on there. But man, I don't know. It's just a whole other level of corny.
It's very corny. Yes. It's a cornier.
I don't even know how to really just like relate
Macphisto
to
is
it.
wild, man. I love it though. I love Achtung Baby. I love U2.
That's a big thing though. Is like
so embarrassing.
Bono, not incredibly funny. Like Talking Heads were a funny band.
Right. You don't think of Bono as like a famed joker who is great at not taking himself seriously.
Right, yeah. I think there's no like sharpness or wryness there, I wouldn't say.
He's the one who like comes out on stage and is like, let's talk about Nicaragua. He takes himself very serious.
And Talking Heads, when they did sort of comical things, the masterstroke was how much they underplayed it.
Yeah.
Like David Byrne's blankness sold a lot of... Right. Whereas Bono does everything full tilt. Bono is not good at understatement.
Right.
So anyway, he's not in this movie.
He's not. Bono is the person who's not in this movie.
Eventually, Catherine Bigelow sees Schindler's List, and she's like, break me off a piece of this Ralph Fiennes, because he's fucking awesome.
Which is fascinating, though, because this role is written very much as like an Andy Garcia 90s archetype.
Definitely.
Totally,
he is a leather jacket wearing, like, sweaty American, very, like, who's kind of like, I'm trying, what can I tell you?
That was his whole thing was
my take is he's Nicolas Cage in Snake Eyes, but just like a little chiller, but only a little chiller.
But Garcia was really good at being like a little too slick, but still likable. A little greasy, but still compelling.
Yeah, I reads as a protagonist on screen.
I love Andy Garcia.
I do too.
In the early 90s. I mean, I love him now. I don't mean to beef with poor Andy Garcia these days, but like...
But that's so weird that it was Schindler's List. That's the thing.
The point I'm making. Yeah. Because this is written as a Garcia type, and then to see Schindler's List and be like, that's my man, we now know that Ralph Fiennes is like one of the best screen actors in history.
Very, very, yes, he's a chameleon.
And can do anything.
In a weird sort of a way.
Yeah.
But if you haven't seen him do a ton of work and then you see him play a very clean-cut, humorless Nazi
Yeah.
to like chilling effect.
No, but there is humor to that performance. I think that performance is so extraordinary. I also think he's weirdly charming, like even though he's also really frightening. Like that's why it's so good. What do you think of Ralph Fiennes, Emily?
In this movie? Or
Sure,
in
but
general?
in general, in both.
I mean, great. Love Ralph Fiennes.
Love Ralph.
I mean, he was somebody, like, even before I think I had seen any film that he was in, he was somebody that my mom really liked and like had a crush on.
Sure.
He's
Right.
so
it
his
was
big, like mom crush 90s.
Yeah.
He was a Masterpiece Theater type, even if he wasn't a Masterpiece Theater type. Yeah.
And you know, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I like him. Why not? Ralph Fiennes, great actor.
In between this and Schindler's List, he had just made Quiz Show, which he's excellent
Right.
in.
He's
Yes.
so good in that.
That was right before. That was the year.
That's
before.
94.
Yeah.
In which, so in Schindler's List, he plays a Nazi, right?
Right.
And a really like top of the line Nazi. This
One of
guy
the
is
best
a Nazi.
Nazis
One of
I've
the best
ever-
Nazis.
Yeah.
In Quiz Show,
No Chris Cantwell, this guy.
Sure. In Quiz Show, he's playing like the sort of ultimate wasp. He's playing like this
Right.
very preppy professor type who's like, the whole point of him is that he's very like appealing in a broad way,
But that's
which is why they fixed the Quiz
Sure.
Show. Yeah.
Both Quiz Show and Schindler's List, he's essentially playing like very sharp knives.
Square jawed,
You
yes,
know?
right,
These
right,
like
right.
very clean cut, composed, tightly wound
But
people.
what I like about Quiz Show is that he's holding on by a thread. Like
Yes.
you know, like even though he looks like that, he's really nervous about letting his dad down because his dad. So anyway, and then after Strange Days, he makes The English Patient. So in the 90s, like
He's on a track.
I think he's having a great run, and then he kind of like runs into a wall for a little while,
Right. But
Because it's
I
like
know-
The Avengers,
Sure.
Sunshine.
I do think he's one of the best screen actors of all time. But that
I think he's a great actor.
that 90s run, it was like, oh, he's really good at doing this thing. Like
Yeah.
by and large, it was like, okay, he's got his mode that he's really good in.
Yeah.
I'm never going to, discount that. But I don't find it very exciting. But like his weird, like 10 years ago when he sort of reinvents himself as a character actor, and now it's just been like zagging
When
all
he's
over
popping
the
up
place.
in things like In Bruges and right, you're like, oh,
And Grand Budapest. And what was the other thing? I think he's really good in the Bond movies.
you know what he's great in?
What?
Another Catherine Bigelow movie,
Hurt Locker.
The Hurt Locker.
He rules
Yeah.
in.
which he is like sort of undersung in. He's great in that movie.
I think he's weirdly sort of gotten freed up as an actor as he's become more of a supporting player.
Yeah.
And even when he plays lead roles now, they tend to be more character
Right,
lead
which, like,
roles.
Grand
Doesn't have
Bud-
to be. He doesn't have to. Nothing. It relies less on his face and his physique.
Right.
I think now. Well,
It's
except
bigger
for
Splash.
Bigger Splash.
He's
Definitely
so
relies on
physical
his
in
Like,
that
it's fucking
movie.
unbelievable.
But
in
I
Bigger
mean,
Splash.
but not in
Yes.
a way where he has to be like a sculpture or something.
No, which he used to be the most beautiful man.
He used to be. Yeah. Yeah.
He's quite
and
beautiful.
like still, there was a stillness
arrested.
to
Right.
him.
Yes, yes.
Which is obviously like this is an outlier for that.
And he
Right.
just has that like cut glass accent that he
Yes.
deploys so well in things like Schindler's List and The English Patient. But in this, he's like, "Ha ha, I'm Lenny Benito over here." Like
this was
I
like-
was watching
right.
this like on my laptop, and David Reese, my roommate,
big fan.
Past and future guest.
that host of Tars
Talk.
Talk. He walked by and he hasn't seen this film, so he didn't know it.
I think
looking
David
at, but
might get a kick out of this film.
I don't
he'd
know.
like
I
this
don't know.
one.
I don't
I
know.
was like, you might have to watch it.
It's a
separately
little
for me.
grody
It's
for him.
Pretty, yeah. It's got a pretty rude tude, this film, but he walked by. There was a scene. I think it was like the scene in the bar where he's pitching the one guy on the squid technology, and he's like, "Is that Bradley Cooper?" I think that tells you everything about this.
He is
Yeah.
kind of doing like
Performance.
Yeah, that's
limitless
true.
Bradley Cooper.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Cooper
Yeah.
could do this right now.
Yeah,
Coops. I mean,
totally.
maybe not quite as well.
That would be who
Yeah.
you would get.
That's
now
who
if
you'd
That's who
made
you
this.
would get.
Yeah.
But she got Ralph Fiennes. She got Angela Bassett, who is now only a couple years removed from her Oscar nomination for What's Love
Yeah,
Got
that was
to Do with It.
92, 91.
I think it's 92. Let me look up Angela.
But that
yeah,
was the
93,
moment where-
93. So very,
Okay.
yeah,
And
right
everyone
off.
thought she was going to be a huge star, and it never totally happened.
Which is
A massive bummer.
But
Yeah.
she's
she's
the,
fucking
dumb.
unbelievable.
I mean, but she's the best. She remains the best. Like,
And she
if she
continues
shows up,
working.
she's always
She
good.
still has a career. It just felt like she was going to kind of become like one of the great leading ladies.
Yeah.
Can I
For
say
sure.
a couple
I mean,
more?
how Stella got her group back.
Yes.
That's a good move.
I don't want to obsess over this, but I just want to plant a couple more little quick things about Ralph Fiennes, if I can very quickly do so.
Okay.
One, I think this performance was the outlier in the 90s that seemed odd. And now in retrospect, this is clearly what he was wishing to do.
Sure.
Right? And not just
the
be
decoder ring.
Right, not just be the straight cut guys.
I agree with that.
And I also think now I find his straight cut performances more interesting because it's clear that was more of a performance. At the time, it felt like, I guess this is his type. He's emoting these roles well, but that feels as much a character as the later stuff he does.
Right.
But the other thing that's interesting to me is he seemed, because of his very crisp diction and his good posture and, his nice face and everything, like one of these classically trained, just like very technical British theater actors, right? And Wes Anderson said that he hired him for Grand Budapest because he was like very technical movie, a lot of words. I just wanted to hit his marks, and he got to set. And Ray Fiennes is like a crazy method actor.
Sure. So he's just
that he's like not performative, and that he had like a real difficult time because in Grand Budapest, when there would be voiceover, he would make the actors hold still for like 30 seconds in the middle of the shot, where he would then place the voiceover later. And Ray Fiennes would like flip out and be like, I can't just be doing nothing for 10 seconds. My character is living.
Wow.
I'm team Rafe, honestly.
Yeah, the character is living. I know. Well, because Wes Anderson sounds like a pain in the ass.
No, that's so annoying. If you're an actual actor and you're trying to do a good job and he's like, no, I've got to do something twee. Like, hang on a second.
But Wes Anderson is, his
actors are little
dolls. Yeah,
But I also think one of the reasons that movie,
that movie is the Wes Anderson movie that I really love.
Yeah.
And I'm not that fond of it.
I honestly think that.
Guys. Isle of Dogs, though.
I'm so excited.
Isle of Dogs, though.
You're so excited.
I'm so excited.
I am not excited for that movie.
Oh, I'm sorry. You don't like movies about dogs that make trash planets?
I mean, I like that. No, honestly, no. But I'm
so excited. What I was going to say, though, is Grand Budapest, which I think is maybe his best movie, I feel like is elevated by Ray Fiennes because Ray Fiennes probably pushed him in that kind of way.
Maybe.
Because you watch those scenes and Ray Fiennes is doing shit. Like, Ray Fiennes isn't just being like, I'm not going to fucking stand here like a doll.
Yeah.
Juliette Lewis.
Yes.
Who
is writing really high at this moment.
It's true. I mean, you think about the fact that Juliette Lewis at age,
19?
like 21 is an Oscar nominee.
Right.
And then she's in Husbands and Wives. She's in What's Eating Gilbert Grape. She's in California. She's in Natural Born Killers.
Right. She's
so it's
like culturally very tapped in.
But without letting go of her inherent Juliette Lewisness. You know, it's like, this is my star persona.
Yeah.
I again, Grody. Like, I'm a Grody star.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I am.
And it's also a complete...
And it's the 90s. It's the early 90s. It's a grungy
time. She kind of
time.
represented something, but she's also a complete dead end. Like, there has never been a movie star like Juliette Lewis before her or after her. Like, she's this total one-off in terms of her persona.
Now's Juliette Lewis?
Nobody.
I mean,
because even like your Kristen Stewarts are not like in vibe. It's more like in sort of
and Kristen Stewart is like, even though she I guess it could be argued that she does the same performance in every movie, but she is acting. She is really acting.
Agreed.
Is this dumb? Is J-Law, but like J-Law is like a nicer version?
Yeah, if J-Law was grodier instead of just being like you.
LOL.
Like Juliette Lewis, for anything you want to say about her, I don't think ever made an effort to be like, I'm just like you.
Yeah, no, right.
She's like some girl who hasn't washed her hair who's like smoking behind the 7-Eleven. Like, that's who she is, you know?
Certainly that's her star persona.
I think everyone we're saying has like a bit of Juliette Lewis, but I think there's like some jambalaya of what she represented. And let's also mention she was dating Brad Pitt at the time. Like, she was dating the hunkiest guy in Hollywood.
And they hire her partly because she can sing or perform.
Didn't want to lip sync the songs. They wanted real musical.
She's performing PJ Harvey songs up there,
it's amazing.
including "Rid of Me," which is like the sort of the definitive.
Yeah, I mean that really
early
dates,
PJ Harvey
that dates
song.
this movie in a weird way for a science fiction movie.
Right. It does. It does.
But it's kind of great.
And then for the fourth lead. She reaches into the barrel and gets out one of her favorite actors who's in Blue Steel. He's in Point Break, in small roles in both.
But Blue Steel, his first film performance ever.
Correct.
She's the woman who put that man on the map.
And then she puts that wig on the man. The man being Tom Sizemore.
Yeah, she sized him up.
Yeah. Who is just another like king of like Hollywood grody. Yeah. I mean, and this movie is his masterpiece. That wig is his masterpiece.
I was trying to
I was almost mad when the wig got pulled off, and I was like, no, I wanted that to be his hair.
I was talking to my friend Hawken last night about Tom Sizemore just because I've seen 3 Tom Sizemore movies in the last week now.
Because he keeps fucking popping up, and he's all over Twin Peaks, which he is wild in. Yeah,
but I was offering
this scene he does. Have you?
I don't think I've gone to Sizemore yet.
Oh my god,
I'm woefully behind.
Yeah, there's this scene he does that is insane. It's like one of the greatest pieces of TV acting I've ever seen. Anyway, carry on.
I was offering Tom Sizemore as a counterpoint to Robert Downey Jr. How in the 90s, both of them were like, these are these immensely talented, like naturally
very
gifted
natural actors. Yes, who are,
and they
like,
can't
have a lot
get out of their own
presence.
way.
Sure.
They cannot get out of their own way.
Yeah, Tom Sizemore could not get out of his own way.
The difference was with Robert Downey Jr., it always felt like he was like a victim, where it's like, oh God, he's like, he can't defeat these demons. And with Tom Sizemore, you're like, yeah, it makes sense. That guy's a drug addict. Like, not to be reductive, but you watch him and you're like, yeah, that's like his entire star quality was the fact that he looked like a guy who just crawled out of the gutter, you know?
Sure. I mean, right. No one's surprised to learn that Tom Sizemore
has a sheen.
You want him to get his shit together, but also his sheen as a guy who can't get his shit together.
In this movie, he plays Max Peltier.
Sure.
Is that how you put it?
I don't even remember hearing his last name.
He's Max.
He's Max.
Hey,
Max.
He's a PI, I guess, but he's sort of like a former LAPD guy. It sort of was.
Right.
It's hard to track everyone. Everyone is sort of used to work for the cops,
yeah,
right?
They used to work together. I think.
Yeah.
That...
they used to work together. Now he's a PI, and Lenny Nero, who's Ray Fiennes' character, is a club operator.
Wait, what?
Doesn't he sort of run that club? I can't even.
No,
he doesn't.
No, that's.
He's just a squid dealer. That's all he does.
He's just a squid dealer.
Oh my God, Lenny, get it together, man.
But his car is pretty nice.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and then he's got
his apartment is terrible, but he's got a great car.
Everyone's apartment in this is
very
so
LA.
bad.
Yeah, very LA. I do. I watch this movie and I'm like, this is how I feel every time I step off the plane at LAX.
Sure.
Like, this is what I see. My they live glasses show me this version of LA. I'm like, this is what everyone's suppressing.
The first time I ever went to LA was in like 1997. My mother was on We Live Fortune, so I went with her.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. Or was it 97 or was it 95? I can't remember.
I can't tell you when your mother was on your
sorry. Oh, yeah. No, it was 97.
Did she win?
She won some money. She didn't win the whole thing. But that, I mean, it was only a couple years later, but like that, I remember going to Hollywood Boulevard. It was still really, really grody. And that was like always my memory of LA. It was just like this kind of icky feeling. There wasn't a mall there yet. There wasn't anything for like a child to do besides like get screen print t-shirts, t-shirts or whatever.
Did you get a screen printed t-shirt?
I think I did. I don't remember what I got. I don't know. I was very excited by all of it. It was very electrifyingly grody.
Yeah. And so is LA, I don't know LA very well. I'm always very excited when I'm in LA because it is sort of this weird magical place to me. But is it less, I know it's less grody now, but is it stripped of grodiness entirely?
It looks basically the same. That scene where he's going down Hollywood Boulevard and like there are like flaming cars in the middle of the street, and people are like beating up Santa Claus on the sidewalk, like that. Aside from that activity,
sure.
It basically looks the same.
Hollywood Boulevard is still very grody.
Yeah.
And sections of LA have gotten classed up, but I still think it's like a new coat of paint on a grody heart.
Sure. I mean, there's still like they go by this store. It's very recognizable called Hurricane. It has like a very big neon sign, and that's still there. It's like a stripper store. All that business is booming.
Okay, so Lenny's a squid dealer. Squids.
Oh, what does it stand for again?
It's a real thing, I think.
What?
It is. It stands for superconducting quantum interference device, which is a sensitive magnetometer used to measure magnetic fields. And I think this is real technology that James Cameron is theorizing, like maybe one day this could be used to read our own thoughts, essentially.
Right.
Digitize our thoughts.
They're essentially like VR documentaries.
Sure. You put this
it's
cradle cap on your head. Yeah.
Well, it's like Paprika, aka Better Inception, the Satoshi Kon movie.
Yeah, great movie.
Because there's like a thing that can read your dreams. It basically looks like a squid. It's like these little fingers. Yeah. But
you put this thing on, you plug it into a mini disc player, as you do.
Of course. Of course.
And then you can record your dreams. Or no, not your dreams. I mean your whatever, your point of view.
Make a movie.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. They have to get real people to live through these real circumstances, record them so that other people can then live through them secondhand. You want the rush of doing the things you would never have the courage to do in your real life.
Right.
But it means that these people have to go put themselves in real danger.
Right, because early on we see Lenny choreographing a lesbian sex scene where he's kind of giving advice on like how to make it feel
more real
to the actors. Yes.
I mean,
it's all the senses too, we should point out. It's not just seeing, it's feeling,
feel
like your whole experience.
It is just it's plugged into your cortex.
Yeah. Right. And I mean, it reminds me of when they first came out with like 360-degree cameras, and I was like so convinced that the new reality television was going to be like Kim Kardashian would have one of these cameras on, and you would just like plug in to her experience.
Right.
That's basically what this is, except with non-famous people, basically like porn stars.
Was that famous people, like people like that who are famous for the sake of being famous, would essentially let their lives become being John Malkovich?
Yeah, exactly.
Where it's like you're paying a subscription.
You ride around in their head.
Right.
Yeah.
You once a month pay $7.99 to be able to watch Kim Kardashian at any moment in time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, which is also like the Neuromancer thing too, with the, what's it called? It has some other name, but like the same thing, or the Stim Sim. That's what it's called, because it's the same. Because it's also a thing that replicates like neural activity. So it's the whole experience,
this
not
is
just
embarrassing.
visual.
What you're thinking of is The Simpsons, Emily.
That's
I hate to correct you.
Simpsons from Gibson, right? Yeah, right. So
it's a family sitcom
that
about yellow
is-
people.
that is the tech.
Bart is a bad boy.
They do a really good job explaining. Like there's like a scene that I feel like could easily feel clunky, where he explains the technology when he has the client that's like the lawyer or something, like the very preppy dude.
Yeah.
And like they get everything out of the way. They're like, this was military technology that got like put on the black market.
It's always military, just like Inception, where they're like, the military designed this. Why? Don't worry about it. Anyway, here's the squid thing. Yeah, no, carry on.
But I mean, it's like a really good economic scene, and you also get to see like a first timer, not somebody like Lenny who knows this technology inside and out. You get to see a first timer, basically us, experience it for the first time, which is great.
The thing I love about it is that scene comes like 15, 20 minutes into the movie.
Yeah.
They've already shown us a couple of the videos. They've shown people filming the things, going through the actions. Like she's doing a lot of showing, not telling. So you already think you kind of got it, and then she's got this one scene where she just like connects all the dots and makes sure you totally have it. But the opening of this movie we should talk about is like fucking unbelievable.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, there's what appears to be one continuous shot of a guy being chased by cops that lasts like 4.5 minutes. And it's from the dude's POV.
Right. And the way they shot these things was fucking hard. It's 1995.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to get a handheld camera to behave that way.
Right. By all accounts, that was most of the budget, was that those sequences were really, really complicated, and they had to do some Cameron-esque pushing technology beyond where it had been until that point.
It was a stripped-down Ari that weighed much less than the smallest AMO. I don't know camera stuff, but
Ari Alexa, I believe they're talking about this.
And yet it would take all the prime lenses. I love hearing all this camera shit.
Huh. I mean, why wouldn't I? There were camcorders then, though.
But I think the quality would look so bad.
But
I think
it does look bad, though.
It looks a little bad, but it doesn't. It looks pretty seamless.
I guess it's like it's more dimensional.
And no one was using digital video at that point in time.
Right.
Like the only way you were going to do that is if there was a scene with someone's home movie and it was supposed to look bad. And even then, you were transferring the home movie onto a TV screen and then shooting that in 35 millimeter.
It's so wild how much more stuff we figured out since 1995.
It's true, because I think even when I'm thinking about camcorders back then, I think like it would just be too shaky if anyone moved.
Yeah, there's no stability, or there maybe was a little bit of that.
It'd be tough to stabilize it.
But do you remember when like Michael Mann started shooting a digital video and everyone was like, "This looks fucking awful. Like this doesn't look like a real movie. You can't do this."
Or you watch Spike Lee's Bamboozled and you're like, "Wow, this movie looks insane."
It like immediately made a movie look low rent. Like everyone had this very, very literal sense of how a movie was supposed to look, which was tied to film.
Yeah.
But it was very hard. The opening sequence, which features the long jump, he jumps between buildings,
is incredible.
Which was done without a safety harness and by a stunt performer, was really, really, really hard. Apparently, according to what I'm reading,
it's really effective and visceral, and the greatest thing about it is they make it look very seamless and easy.
Yeah, was it actually one long take?
That's a good question.
No cheats in there?
It probably is, isn't it? It's hard to imagine
I don't
how they would have cheated
remember.
it.
Yeah.
I'd have to, I don't know. But I mean,
Have you guys
it took you a long time to coordinate.
At this point in this podcast, which I already admitted I haven't listened to any of yet, have you guys
There's only been
delved?
2 episodes.
Yeah, but have you guys delved
We've
into the
recorded
question
more.
of like why Catherine Bigelow is so hardcore?
Like,
Like, what is it that motivates her hardcoreness? Because she is the
She's-
most hardcore.
She's pretty
Yeah.
Like,
fucking
for better
hardcore.
and for worse. And this movie, I feel like, is a prime example of that. She's like the most hardcore and doesn't quit.
She likes to push genre and medium into new directions. I don't know. It's hard to get into. She is a semi-autician who went to Whitney Art School, like the Whitney Institute, and was very interested in male violence from an early point in her career.
Like, we don't have like the like backstory on her that's like fills in the gaps and like helps us understand.
It's-
or
I don't know if there's an
something.
easy line to draw.
Right.
She
certainly,
doesn't do as many
'cause
interviews. I mean, she's certainly like the least public.
She
sort
doesn't
of director of all the people we've covered so far, who
She
all
does-
have larger personalities and personas.
And I've been reading some of her interviews, but she's very
cagey,
straightforward
Right.
about how she makes things,
She's
but very
kind of
cagey
didactic
about her
about explaining.
motivations.
Right.
Like, or whatever. She's just sort of like, I don't know. It's the movie is the movie. You know,
Yeah.
like it's a lot of like that sort of
Well,
stuff.
it's just the
right.
polar opposite, I think, of now, like especially young directors or new directors who are showing up, like women
have
directors.
narratives about themselves.
Well,
maybe.
especially female directors,
Sure.
and like you're expected to have a thing of like some political motivation that you choose the topics that you do.
Sure.
And-
or it's like growing up, I was
Yeah.
watching these movies and wondering X, or I was watching these movies and inspired by Y.
Yeah.
Carry on. Sorry.
No, I mean, no, but it's just like I didn't know if you guys had any like insight on that, because this opening scene is such a like
This
yeah.
seems fucking hardcore.
It's amazing.
Well, I know you go crazy when I try to like assign too much autobiographical baggage to movies by directors. But
I do.
But
well put.
But Blue Steel really does kind of feel like the Urtext to me.
Blue Steel. Well, Blue Steel's a great movie.
Right. But that movie, have you seen Blue Steel?
No.
I think you would get a kick out of that movie, Emily.
Okay.
It rules. But the
yeah.
whole movie is Jamie Lee Curtis as this cop who everyone's like, you're really pretty. Why do you need to be a cop?
Mm-hmm.
And she's just like, this is what I want to do. I want to bash people's head through walls.
Right. There's a great scene where a guy is sort of like at a picnic is trying to kind of pick her up, like trying to nag her a little bit, where he says that and she says, I like to bash people's head against a wall, and his face just kind of falls and she just sort of smiles at him and like pats him on the head.
The character has this like hardcore sense of morality. She grew up seeing a lot of injustice around her, and she wants to correct that, which, you know, Catherine Bigelow is very clearly a very politically, socially, you know, activated person.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Sociopolitically rather than politically, socially. But also, I think she's just innately a hardcore person.
Yeah.
Like, as much as we want to find out that she fell into a radioactive vat of hardcore people.
Sure.
You know?
Hardcore people?
Yeah. My joke is that every Batman villain fell into a vat of radioactive whatever they
the penguin
are.
fell into a vat of radioactive penguins.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, so she fell into a radioactive vat of ex-gamers or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And she came out and she was like, we're going to strap a
Protesters.
camera to this person. Yeah.
Oh man.
But I mean, like, The Hurt Locker is a crazy hardcore movie.
Yeah.
We'll get to that, where she's like, put on that suit, Jeremy. It's 130 degrees right now.
Right.
Like, you know, and she wants him to be sweating his ass off. And like, yeah.
But even like the fact that she was actually doing like cleanup efforts after the LA riots, I think speaks a lot about her, because I don't think a lot of people who were directing studio movies at that point in time were going and doing.
Yeah.
Right.
And like, as far as I can tell, it wasn't like it was for research or something, or like as part of a project. It was just something that she cared about, which is just, I don't know. I think,
I mean, it's also just generally hardcore to make this movie after Point Break.
Oh, yeah.
Well, like after Point Break, you could really jump into Hollywood's A-list.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there's no way she's making this movie and thinking like, no, I think this is going to play. Like, this is definitely going to be a broad hit.
I don't know. I mean, it should be. I mean, it should. I mean, we could get into it more later. But yeah.
I just want to say two things before we like fully delve into it. I think the point you're making is correct, which is that like the easy thing for her to do after Point Break would have been to direct the next big blockbuster by any of the A-list action stars at the time. Like, you imagine she could have directed the next Bruce Willis movie, the next Schwarzenegger movie. They said, like, welcome to the majors. Here you go.
Yeah.
Right? And instead, she makes, like, her real blank check movie.
And she casts Ralph Fiennes as the lead.
Yeah.
Right.
No, okay. So I'll say that Ralph Fiennes is probably the reason that this doesn't make sense, because I think if you did have a Bruce Willis in that role,
I think the movie
then this would have been a
Quite
bigger
possibly.
I think
you could have gone a little more ordinary with your leading man.
Commercially, a very odd choice at that
Especially
point in time.
since, and I love this poster.
Yeah.
But what a poster, where it's just his face and then it says, you know you want it. And you're
so
like,
great.
You know you want what? Strange Days?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nazi from Schindler's List, except now he's got a beard.
Oh, boy.
I do like the three the one of him and and
the
Angela
three
Bassett.
heads
and
Juliette Lewis giving us her grody stare.
Yeah,
can I make my second point before we fully dig into it?
I really would like you to.
Just because I'm a connoisseur of context, right?
Yeah.
And I think the table needs to be set properly. It must be acknowledged before we discuss Strange Days that Mack Weldon believes in smart design, premium fabrics, and simple shopping.
Yep.
That's a fact. We have to acknowledge that.
You know why you get so aggro about it. We know.
But just contextually,
I'm nodding.
It's worth noting that Mack Weldon will be the most comfortable underwear, socks, shirts, undershirts, hoodies, and sweatpants that you'll ever wear. That's a fact, right?
You're Mr. Facts today.
I mean, look. Can I throw out a hot take?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And I don't mean to be incendiary when I say this.
Uh-huh.
They have a line of silver underwear and shirts that are naturally antimicrobial,
Yeah,
which means they eliminate odor.
They don't smell. I mean, that's some freaky sci-fi shit right there.
I'm not going to get any woke points for saying that, but it needs to be said.
Yeah.
You know? I'm addressing the ills of society head on.
No, and they want you to be comfortable, so if you don't like it, you can send it back.
Here's my impression of you ordering Mack Weldon.
Yeah.
This is my first pair. Well, I don't like it. Let me send it back. Refund.
No,
you
can
ask any
keep
questions.
it. I'm wrong. You can actually keep it, and they'll just refund you, no questions asked.
Okay.
That's kind of wild.
So then here's my impression of an idiot. Okay.
God. Okay.
Mack Weldon. Oh, I don't like this. I'm just gonna keep it and ask for my money back.
Sure.
You dummy. Why don't you like it? It's good for you.
Okay.
It's like a squib on your body.
A squib?
Yeah, a squid.
A squid. You're tying it back to Strange Days.
What I'm saying is, if Strange Days lets you live the life of another person, right, with the technology it presents, the squid, Mack Weldon Clothes is doing the same thing, which is like, what would it be like to live as someone who's comfortable?
You know you want it.
You know you want it.
And if our listeners want it?
Well, look, let's say you want it, but you want 20% off.
Right.
It's conditional. I want it, but I want 20% off.
There's a promo code for that.
You don't leave the box blank.
Yeah, this is your bit. You don't leave it blank.
In the word blank.
You put in blank.
Yeah.
To get 20% off.
You got to put a blank in there.
At MackWeldon.com.
Yes. Yeah, I think that covers, right? I think that's most of the context we need to talk about Strange Days.
I think it's all connected. You know you want it, to quote the tagline for Strange Days.
Right.
Yeah.
And MackWeldon.com, the promo code blank.
Here's my tagline for Mack Weldon.
Sure.
Clothes so good, so efficient at fighting odor.
Sure.
That even Tom Sizemore would smell good and look clean wearing it.
That's like the sort of AAA rating,
right?
You know what I mean? Where it's like
Tom Sizemore rating of
1A
underwear.
is Brad Pitt, notoriously an odorous man.
But looks
Two
good.
is Sean Penn.
2 is Sean Penn.
Right.
3 is Sizemore.
Yeah.
And this has climbed Mount Sizemore.
Yeah.
All right. Strange Days.
Strange Days. Okay, so we start with this opening sequence of the guy being chased by the
Terrific.
cops.
And then we realize this is
You're placed directly into it, and then
a
the helmet comes
squid
off.
recording.
Because he dies at the end.
Right.
Crucially.
And Lenny's not into that. He's like, I don't like snuff. I
He's
don't
got
like that
principles.
kick.
Right.
He
We
doesn't.
learned that our main character has principles.
And also, it's like, and I love that though. It's like he's got principles, but I mean, the second you see this guy, you're like, oh, this guy has maybe a few principles.
Yeah,
like,
a couple.
But he's also like, he's a squid dealer, but he's also like kind of like a squid studio executive. Like he's giving people notes where it's like, look, audiences don't like this when you do that.
Well, he needs good product.
He needs
well,
good product.
he's a drug dealer, so he's a connoisseur of the product.
Sure.
I guess not getting high on his own supply. He has his own, or I don't know. Not on what he sells people, but on his own personal stuff.
It's like you were saying about the future reality TV that maybe will come, maybe won't. Where it's like there is something necessarily exploitative about these videos. They have to involve people.
Yeah, and that's what he says too, is just like, that there's not a market for, I think later on he's talking to somebody like, you're not going to like watch a video of somebody skiing if you can ski yourself.
It needs to be something that you would never do.
You can never do.
And you see one example of this technology used in a benign way, which is the guy who has no legs getting a squid video of a guy walking down the beach. Like, that's pretty much the only time I think we see it used for what we could argue is like good.
Shades of Avatar. There,
sure. Yeah. But there's like altruism to that. But apart from that, it's like sex and violence.
Porn and snuff.
But he does have his line. Like he views the snuff squid dealers derisively. That's not what he stands for.
Right.
Yeah.
So at the same time as Lenny Nero is being a squid man, we've
great
got
name, Lenny Nero.
Lenny Nero is a terrific name.
It like fits him so perfectly. It's so great. Anyway.
You've got this prostitute called Iris who's on the run from these LA cops, played by Vincent D'Onofrio. And William Fichtner.
A really good duo.
That's how you know that they're going to be really nice guys.
Exactly.
Really good people.
Oh, they're LA cops? Well, who's playing them? I'm not sure how I feel about this.
Oh, so they're emotional.
Vinny and Billy? Oh, they'll be fine, right? Those are two stand-up gents.
Emotionally balanced
Their faces don't look like cinder blocks.
I need to look up this. It's William Fichtner. Is that his name?
Yeah.
Fichtner. I never quite know how you say his name because it's sort of a funny name. I love that actor so much.
He's like so recognizable as he's like a
this
classic
is like
that guy, but
basically his debut. He's in a bunch of movies this year because he's in Heat, which he's a lot of fun in. He's in Virtuosity, which is a classic mid-90s sci-fi movie that is bad, but in kind of a fun way.
But was successful. Is kind of an interesting counterpoint to this movie.
It wasn't that successful.
But have you guys
well enough, right?
Have you guys looked at his because I looked this up when I was earlier.
Give us
his biography on IMDb.
Oh, I love overwritten IMDb biographies.
I'm just going to read you the first line. I'm just going to read you the first line.
Please do.
A small-town guy with a big heart, William Fichtner has been captivating the hearts of Western New Yorkers for decades.
Only Western New Yorkers?
Why?
I don't know. I mean, he's from Long Island, but still, come on, William. We all love you.
It's not like that's an old bio from his theater days or something. Like this includes credits up to The Dark Knight.
Sure.
Like this is not an old bio, apparently. It's so strange.
He's also from Buffalo. I guess he was born on Long Island, grew up in Buffalo.
So he's talking about like his family and friends.
You cannot use heart twice in one sentence like that.
That's true.
That does not work.
Here are his 3 trademarks listed on IMDb. Often portrays antagonistic characters.
Sure. Looks like a guard dog.
Deeply gravelly, commanding voice.
Sure.
He's got a great voice. Attached earlobes. Those are his 3 qualities. Because he's got, that thing where the earlobes just sort of flow right into the face.
Right. He can't wiggle them.
It's a recessive gene.
You know what?
Fichtner.
Maybe there's a nice kind of humility to that bio because he's saying like, look, yes, I've been working my way into the hearts of Western New Yorkers, the people I actually know.
Yeah.
I'm not egotistical enough to assume that audiences love
Billy
me.
Billy is for Western New Yorkers. Everything else is gravy.
Right.
But that's the meat.
Look, they might enjoy my work, but they're not in love with me in the same way my family is, my friends are.
He's also just that kind of actor who has 9 projects in production right now on IMDb. Like, he just works.
Right.
I mean, that guy is just in a lot of stuff.
He's the guy who does, like, a guest spot on a TV show during his lunch break of filming a day player role in a movie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Fichtner's in it. I mean, we're like totally hyping up Fichtner, who's in 5 minutes.
He runs and holds a gun in this movie.
Yeah, right. I mean, he does kill himself gruesomely on screen right at the end.
Oh,
I guess
spoilers.
that's spoilers.
We're gonna get there.
We're gonna get there. So
Iris is running.
Iris is being chased.
It's Union Station Metro.
Yes, they shot on the Metro, which I think was quite complicated too.
Yeah.
And they pull her wig off, and it turns out she's got a headset.
Great moment.
God damn it! One of these fucking kids causing this problem.
And then if you're watching this in 2017, you're like, oh, it's about body cams too.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Now there is a hopeful note to this movie, which is interesting, but I think that's something that Bigelow is thinking coming out of the LA riots, where it's like capturing these images is vital.
Yeah.
And obviously so much the Rodney King beating is captured on a camera, and that's why it's exposed and right? Like
also speaks to like Bigelow's whole thing, which is like, I'm not going to give you lessons. I'm not making grand statements. I'm trying to represent the way things are. This thing we talk about that like works in her favor when it really works and works against her when it doesn't work.
Yep.
But it's just like these images need to exist. These stories need to be told. These things need to be communicated. And then how you respond to it is up to you.
Right. Well, that's what I like about it. Like the squid technology is kind of creepy and kind of, she's not like presenting it as like some savior of the future. But at the same time, she's like,
look at this like defining feature of this horrible future I've created.
Right. But she is saying like there is like the camera is itself is unemotional.
Yes.
But what I love about the squid is that it is so emotional. Like, because you're feeling it, as Ben pointed out. And then later, during the most harrowing scene in the movie, the whole point is that this guy is using it to sort of like transfer his emotions onto her.
But it's an art form, if you can call it that exists without any sense of like editorialization. Like it's just experiential.
Right.
And then your emotions, you know.
Look, man, this is obviously what she's fascinated by in movies like Detroit. And,
I just
think go ahead.
Well, I just feel like this is more of a complete sentence than Detroit.
Yes,
I agree.
It is.
Like,
I mean, it just,
I'll say watching this, and I had never seen it before, I was like, why would she want to make Detroit?
Sure.
Like, what is there of intrigue to her in making Detroit?
I think it was more of intrigue to Mark Bowl, and he sold her on it because he's the generator of those movies.
But it feels like a very literal version of much of what she's getting at in this movie. Yeah. But also on a much smaller scale with a lot less to say.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
Focusing on one very specific incident.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about Detroit.
We'll talk about it. We keep on every episode slipping in one negative opinion of Detroit. That's been like a runner throughout the season. Just because it's frustrating because it just fucking came out. We're talking about it.
Yeah, you know,
it's
not like having Dunkirk to look forward to during the Nolan.
This is true.
And I like Catherine Bigelow in general more than I like Nolan, but like Dunkirk is such an exciting thing to get.
We committed to doing Nolan and Bigelow back to back, and we were like, man, they each have a big movie coming out this summer.
Yep.
And like at the time, it seemed I would have maybe bet a little more money on Detroit working artistically over Dunkirk.
I would not have, but no,
a little more. I might have given 2 more cents to
Detroit
Bigelow.
had red flags right from the start.
Right.
I would say, but I certainly was like, I liked her last 2 movies, and I was certainly like, hey, Catherine Bigelow is a serious director, and I want to see what she makes.
Yeah.
But
she was on a good run.
Strange Days.
Sure.
I'm sorry, I keep saying that.
So then, no. Thank you for the correction. It's worth correcting. Strange DOS.
DOS.
So
Ray finds.
Oh yeah.
We also get
this movie is in DOS.
We get early on because he's not a guy who loves squidding himself. You know, it's his job. He watches it to sample supplies. But he is watching these videos of Juliette Lewis. Reliving his relationship.
He's reliving their nicer days.
Right.
It's really just one video.
Nicer DOS, but yeah.
Can we talk about Juliette Lewis's outfit?
Can we talk about all her outfits?
I mean, but this one is
also sometimes her lack of outfits.
Yeah,
the fishnet. You mean like?
No, this is the roller skating one where she's wearing.
Right.
I wrote it down because I did. You know, I kind of watched it cursorily as I was rewatching it for this podcast. But she's wearing like a long sleeve, like maybe like a Henley type shirt or something, without a bra, obviously.
Right, that goes sort of to like a little bit above her belly button.
Right, yeah. But it's like a long underwear shirt or something. Like I don't know.
It's a shirt where the sleeves end right above the elbow.
Yes, that's
for some reason,
like
right over the elbow.
Okay, and then she's wearing a very not a thong, but like a very spare bikini bottom.
Yes.
And then leg warmers.
Leg warmers.
Up to the thigh.
Well onto the thigh. You know, like halfway up the thigh. This outfit, Griffin, if you don't remember.
Yeah, no, I remember.
Yeah,
crazy.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
and not only that, they are in public. They're like at Venice Beach or whatever, right? Yeah.
She also, like, now, this should be the new, like, substitute instead of Kris Jenner, because, you know, like, the meme now is, like, you're doing great, sweetheart, or, like, you're doing amazing,
you're
sweetie.
You're doing amazing, sweetie,
That's what
right.
that's all she's saying in the scene is, you're doing amazing, sweetie, like, while she's roller skating around in her bikini. It's so weird.
It's wild stuff.
But also, you have these, like, 2 extended scenes.
Saying wild. Sorry, carry on.
So, strange is the word you're looking for.
Strange.
You have 2 extended scenes where she just, like, very casually takes off her clothes and remains undressed for a period of time that just becomes very banal.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
Like,
she's
there's
often
right.
either nude or semi-nude.
Right.
Yeah.
In a weird kind of way where it's like, even when you're watching his squid video and it's obviously like a memory of his that is sexual, the way she's depicted is very non-sexual because it's just like someone casually being in their own home.
Right.
Yeah,
it's just like living with your girlfriend or whatever.
Right.
Like,
and then the same thing when she's changing. Right. When she's changing backstage after the concert, and it's just like, it's like, it's a dressing room.
Yeah,
like, this is just kind of what happens. Yeah.
So they used to date. Now she's dating Philo Gant.
Gross record producer.
Played by Michael Wincott.
And not Bono.
Not Bono, who I think of mostly as the villain in The Crow.
Right.
Where he has one of my favorite villain names of all time.
Top Dollar?
Top Dollar. Which is, The Crow is like if Strange Days was less restrained. That movie is hysterical. I love that movie.
I've never seen The Crow. I've never seen it.
One of those movies where every second my critical brain is like, this is bad, David, bad. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but like, it's pretty great, like.
Oh man,
that movie is amazing.
It's a lot of movie.
Wait,
God,
so when are we introduced to Philo Gant? Or we don't know that she's dating him till later. All we know is like
right, because Philo Gant's we're already seeing him on screen.
Oh right, because he's the manager of Jericho 1.
He's the manager of Jericho 1, played by Glenn Plummer, who was like he's another actor where I'm like just like camera zoom, like crash into my face, and it's like I'm in 1995. Like if I see Glenn Plummer in a movie, because Glenn Plummer, I mean, he's in Menace to Society, he's in Speed, which I love him in. He's in Showgirls, which is kind of where the wheels come off the bus for him.
Sure, the Speed bus.
Yeah, he's weirdly one of the only people who recurs and is in Speed 2.
Oh,
because he's the Jaguar owner in Speed,
right?
Who Keanu hijacks, and he's in the car with him, and he's like, "If you get a scratch on this car, I'm gonna kill you," And then for some reason he's also in Speed 2, which is weird because Keanu Reeves is not anyway.
Right. His relationship is no longer
with
in
Keanu.
The movie.
I know.
Right.
Anyway, so we're seeing on video only. We're hearing about Jericho 1.
Yeah, it's on the news or something.
Who is a rapper / activist.
Yeah. Was kind of a Tupac.
Yes.
Jesus Christ. A Tupac analog in terms of his cultural cachet, but also what he represented politically and all of that. Yeah.
Right. And Tupac is not killed until after this movie comes out. This movie sort of eerily, and not to say that Tupac was assassinated by the police, although I'm sure.
But there was definitely that narrative that was out there, and like he was certainly paranoid about that kind of thing as well.
Yes, for
understandably. So, yeah.
So I guess I think we're hearing about Philo via that, right?
Yeah, you're seeing him news
Philo?
reports,
Philo?
right. But it's kind of a thing that everyone's.
She says Philo, and then other people say Philo.
Look.
There's so many movies where it's like the cast has not just been like briefed on how to pronounce somebody's name.
Right.
It's like kind of a pet peeve of mine. I can't think of any off the top of my head.
But you're right, and especially in like a sci-fi movie where maybe a name is kind of made up. Like let's all agree on what this name is.
I've had things like that where sometimes it's like really fucking hard when they don't give you the advance note. So you're like working on your scenes and you like prep in your head and you think you know what the reading is, and then you get to set and they're like, oh, everyone's been saying it this way. Yeah. You practice at that time, and then the take where you say it the wrong time, you regress back to the way you practice it is the best one performance-wise.
Right.
There's a weird thing in the Tick where like it's mostly in the remaining 6 episodes that haven't been released yet that we have shot. For people who keep asking if we'll get to make more episodes, we are done. With the rest of this season at least. But there's a fictional country and a fictional language that becomes a bigger part of the second half of the season.
Sure.
And they cast like 3 different actors who had to play people from that country. Mm-hmm. And so the first actor kind of got to cast the die in terms of like his interpretation of what it sounded like. And then the second actor comes to set and it's like 2 episodes later and she's playing someone from the same country. And you go like, do you direct her to sound more like the first guy? Or do you go like, well, there are regional accents within a country and also every person has their own voice? Like, it gets into weird stuff. Anyway, in this movie, they all say his name differently.
Thanks for that.
Yep.
I know, it's a thing I've been thinking about a lot.
Mm-hmm. So Lenny's got 2 best friends. Just like anyone else, His two best friends are
Hashtag the two friends.
Right. His former LAPD partner, who's now a PI and has a giant blonde wig.
Right.
Kind of looks like Bret Michaels.
That friend we all have. We all have a guy like that in our crew.
Yeah.
Right. And then his other pal is Mace, who is a limo driver who's like the best dressed, most amazing woman on the planet.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like, wait, why is she a limo driver? Which is never explained.
Right.
Like,
it's like, but she's like also kind of a bodyguard because
Right.
her limo is bulletproof, right?
her limo is an
Which is
awesome
amazing.
bulletproof limo.
Yeah.
But
It's like a tank.
I'm like, does she own the limo business? Is she a contractor?
Right.
Is it just her limo and she just does awesome
Well,
limo
if
shit?
you're a person who needs a bulletproof limo,
Hey,
you
man.
go to her,
You know who
and
to
it
call.
probably costs more than a regular limo, so she's probably able to generate quite a bit of business from that.
The word that comes to mind whenever I see Angela Bassett in a movie, both in terms of like her acting, but also the character she's playing, regardless of the film, is impressive.
Yeah, she's
Yes.
right.
Like
sure.
anyone Angela
She
Bassett
looks
plays
so
becomes an
phenomenal in this
impressive
movie.
person where you're like,
Yeah.
wow, that person.
I love how she's styled. Like, I love
Yeah.
her outfits.
All these blazers and stuff. Oh my
Just
god.
badass blazers.
Ugh.
I love her in this movie. Her backstory is that he was nice to her when she was a cop.
When he was a
No.
cop, yeah, it goes beyond that.
Wait, no, she wasn't a cop though.
When he was a
No,
cop.
He was a cop.
No, I'm
Right.
saying when he was a cop,
She and her
he was nice to her.
Her husband
Her
was-
husband was abusing her or something.
I think it's her boyfriend was like
Right.
arrested on like drug charges or something
Oh.
and
left her
was-
with a child, and he sort
Yeah.
of became a surrogate father figure and ally
It's a
to her.
little.
It's just a really brief flashback. Where
It
we
is.
Get
Yeah.
and
is.
it's like, but it's like there to inform us. Like he's like a shithead, and she has a very short fuse with him. But like then we see that flashback and understand why they hang out.
He was
what
Right.
their bond
there
is.
when no one else was.
Right.
Sure, but right, like because
Right.
like so much of their relationship is she's like, I don't approve of you being a squid dealer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, if you don't, I mean, like then why do you
Then
hang
why
out
do
with
you
him? He's a
hang out?
squid dealer.
Yeah.
Like that seems to be 80% of his
But
life.
the thing is that he was the one person who was there for her during her tough DOS,
Yeah.
so now she's there for him during his strange DOS.
Can
You can see my face right now.
Can I
Unhappy is how I
maybe
describe it.
offer a maybe not I don't know, universally agreed upon
Sure.
assessment of this,
Serve it
which
up.
is just that like I didn't really pick up on the fact that she was in love with him until maybe the end of the film.
I don't actually disagree. It's certainly she's not hitting that hard
Because she's
Yeah.
just such a badass and he's such a weasel, and it's like
Well,
I
right.
would
You're
not
kind of
think
like,
that.
why would she?
Like, yeah,
like sure she could do better
aside
than.
from the performance, just the facts of the relationship. It's
Right.
just like
she's so much higher status than
Yeah.
him. Right.
Well, right, and like I love that in the first hour of this movie, which like nothing really happens for the first hour of the movie. Like things are happening,
It's
but
a
like
lot
there's
of
no
world building.
plot
Yes.
for us to follow.
Right.
2 times he presents a fake Rolex as collateral
Yes.
to different people who he is trying to like keep on the line.
Mm-hmm.
He's so sweaty. He's like running around. He's like, no, it's all fine. It's all fine. Like everything's gonna work out, you know. And like, yeah, he's on like his last poker chip, right?
Mhm.
Like
Right.
however you want to put it.
But there's some point early on in the first hour, I think, where he says, like, well, you're in love with me, you know, or something like that. But you almost interpret it as just like a
Like-
fuck you. You know?
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
kind of him again with his inflated opinion of
Right.
himself.
Yeah.
It takes a while to be like, oh, literally, she is in love with you.
Right.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Max is introduced when he pulls that like great bit that we all love when he points a gun at Lenny and
Oh,
he's
it's
like,
so
"You're
funny.
under arrest,"
It's
and then
so funny and cool.
and
yeah.
screws up Lenny's drug deal, and then he's like, "Ha ha ha ha! I'm so funny."
I'm just fucking with you.
5 comedy points. 5 comedy points to Max.
Which again, if you're going to be friends with Tom Sizemore, yeah, that's probably what you have to put up with, right?
Right.
Yeah, where he
Right.
points real guns at your head, and he's like, "Ha ha ha! I'm
Yeah.
the cops."
I do think it is interesting though that like the love triangle aspect, which was apparently like
Very camp.
the nucleus of Cameron's entire idea for this movie,
Yeah.
kind of just becomes a thing. Like
Yeah.
she's so much more invested
It's
in the world that
definitely
she's
not the
building.
nucleus of this movie.
Yeah, it feels much more like when she's frustrated with him and when she's like frustrated with him still pining for Juliette Lewis, it feels more like she just wants him to be a better person than the
Yes.
fact that she's in love with him and upset that he's still in love with this other woman, which is like far more compelling to me than if she just like wants to give him a smooch.
We also
Right.
we talked about this in the Blue Steel episode, but I always like bemoan the lack of movies about just like a man and a woman who are
Yeah.
friends and work together, and
Yeah.
it never crosses a line.
Sure.
And I'm not like saying I never want people to end up together, but I always feel that pang of disappointment where like I make it through the first hour of a movie and it's like, oh, they're just peers.
Yeah.
They're just peers.
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
when
yeah.
they kiss, I'm just like, okay, fine, but It would be nice if you just depicted a male female.
Spoiler, I like when they kiss.
I like when they kiss too.
They're pretty people.
My argument is always like, look, if I want them to kiss, I will shout kiss at the screen. Which I do.
David Kiss Sims.
Which I literally actually do at home, which people who have watched movies with me at home can totally...
You also do that to all of your friends. You have a bit of a reputation.
I do, yeah. I tell them to make out.
When people have crushes on people.
I'm like, just make out with them.
Kiss him. He waves his arms around. David does his Muppet arms move. His arms just go like this.
It sounds like Griff is like doing a bit or...
I'm not.
No, that is a bit what I'm like.
Right.
That is always my dating advice too, and like honestly, it's often bad advice.
Oh
like,
no, I think it's.
I think it's generally good advice, but like sometimes the person's like, oh, the person you think like it didn't work out, like he doesn't like me, and I'm like, oh, well, whatever, yeah, it'll be okay,
Try
right?
again.
Yeah.
And then you wave your arms more. But no, I feel like you get frustrated with crushes.
I'm not a big fan of long crushes.
It doesn't feel like people should have crushes at our age. I agree.
Crush person.
Right, I'm like,
which is why you hate me.
Yeah,
because I always am like crush, and you're like kiss.
Yep, he's doing the arms again. It's
crush
true.
or kiss.
You're right. I am a little intolerant of crushes. Right. That's a good point.
You're like either kiss or don't kiss.
I like romance and chemistry and people being cute, but sometimes when a crush goes too far, I'm like, now it's just a complex. Now you can't break out of crush.
Yeah,
right?
it's its own thing. It's its own hobby.
And like everything must be overanalyzed, and it sort of becomes like a sort of organism.
Which is why we're friends, because I'm the exact.
Yeah, you are.
But
you're the opposite.
You like crushes as long as they have a certain narrative propulsiveness.
Right. But as I was saying, and I think as Emily was saying, in a movie, when there's a moment when I think characters might kiss and I feel a chemistry between them, obviously if you don't feel chemistry between them, it's a bit of a bummer. But like when you do, I'm just like, yeah, kiss. So when they kiss in this movie, I think it's earned.
Yeah. No, 100%. It's super earned.
And I think she wants...
That's what I'm saying. I didn't pick up on that.
I don't think she's tacking it on. Right.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, happy to see him end up with Bassett rather than Lewis. Like, that's the character he should be with.
sense that they're going to be good for each other. And that's what you want out of that.
They got a lot of history. It's not like a little fling.
Yeah.
They really know each other.
For all true. But another thing is, fuck. Oh, yeah. Well, right. You're saying in the first hour you're not picking up on it.
No.
But the first hour is overloaded with
so
sensory information. You got like Skunk Anansie and other great flash in the pan 90s bands. Ben, do you have any opinion on Skunk Anansie? I was a huge Skunk Anansie fan when I was a kid.
Wait. Okay, fine, but we need to like context this.
Please,
with my favorite detail or my favorite thing in the movie besides like the squid technology itself. Because they Mace and Lenny take one of her clients. Or like pick up one of her clients,
right,
and take him to a club.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's in the Valley.
Yes,
called Retinal Fetish.
Forgot about the name,
which is the best name for this kind of club. Yeah. And I love this kind of club in movies in general. Another
That's actually my vaporwave name.
Yeah,
Retinal Fetish.
It's a great vaporwave name.
Isn't Retinal Fetish just around the corner from Tech Noir?
Tech Noir.
I think they're on the same block, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, I would love to make a list of. I think after I saw this, I was tweeting about it, and I was like, there are two kinds of like futuristic clubs or like places where people are dancing in like this kind of movie, any kind of cyberpunk movie. And there are cave raves, like in Matrix, and then there are cage raves. And this is a cage rave.
This is a cage rave. Good point. Yeah, cave rave in the Matrix is a great rave that I stick up for.
Fraggle Rock, I'd say, is a series about a cave rave.
Fraggle Rock's got a lot of cave
rave. A never-ending cave rave.
Yeah.
Cage rave.
Gozers out the butt.
Cage rave.
Another good cage rave is in The Hunger. That's a A+.
We keep bringing up this movie on this
really?
podcast. Yeah, well, because we mentioned it during Near Dark because I was trying to think of like sort of vampire movies with like a bit of a genre twist.
And then we mentioned it during Blue Steel, saying that her style was kind of adjacent to Tony Scott, their visual sensibilities at this point in time.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Hunger. I gotta watch The Hunger.
Oh my God, you gotta watch The Hunger.
Let's see Tony Scott. Weird movie.
Yeah. Anyway, I love this club. I love everything about it. I want to go to Retinal Fetish. I want to take a Japanese businessman to Retinal Fetish.
Well, they're building a Strange Days extension onto Disney World, right? That was part of
God,
Cameron's
I
deal.
I just want to read.
It's just called
here.
Los Angeles.
Cameron's deal was they had to spend $2 billion on Avatar Land and $20 million on Strange Days Land.
I'd go.
Yeah.
God, I would not go. So Skunk Anansie, Ben, did you like Skunk Anansie?
I've never heard of them.
Oh my God, am I the only person who's heard of Skunk
Yeah,
Anansie?
no idea
They
what
were
you're
a
talking
British
about.
band, so maybe that's why.
No, I don't know.
But why
what
would you
that
know
is.
about a British band?
They were nobodies when they were in this movie. Like they were just getting started, but they were a big deal in the late '90s in Britain. Their leading woman was this woman called Skin.
That is
who
That's amazing.
is this sort of like spindly
Cool.
bald lady who has this like really intense voice. Their second album, which I love, is called Stoosh. I mean, I'm just injecting 90s right into your veins.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
And their third album is called Post Orgasmic Chill.
Jeez.
Anyway, so just to give you an idea, also Tricky does some stage performing.
No, I was going to say the soundtrack on here is a
Soundtrack is
real
wild.
time capsule.
I keep saying wild. Stop it, David.
Yeah, strange.
Deep
Say strange
Forest.
and stuff.
They were encouraged to jam between takes because Bigelow just wanted to get as much footage and wanted the rave to feel like a real rave. And a soundtrack album was released. In addition, 60,000 promotional CD-ROMs, which contained clips, music, all kinds of stuff, was made available through the college special issue of Rolling Stone.
Man.
Sold only at record stores. Media.
Is this one of the first big like post-internet dangers of technology movie? Because I feel like they're like dangers of technology is like a thing, but they would often be like it's robotics, it's AI, it's what have you.
Well, the same year we have The Net.
The Net.
Which at the time was derided as a hilarious sort of work of alarmism, and now feels like basically just like a prescient piece of storytelling about the modern age.
Hackers has come out already by this point.
Mm-hmm.
Hackers is 95, same year.
Yeah,
It's a big year for big year for tech movies.
And my favorite movie in this genre, Johnny Mnemonic, also 95. So yeah,
it's the time.
Emily, what do you got to say?
Oh, I was gonna also mention the other rave scene, but we should wait till we get there because that one's real special. Good facts about that one too.
Well, keep me on plot track because it's very hard to remember.
There's a
the plot
lot
of
of things.
movie.
There's a lot of balls up in the air. So this, I think, it's at the club where we meet Philo in person.
That's right. Yeah, he has the confrontation with Faith, who is Juliette Lewis,
and she performs there too. So it starts with them, and then she has to do her performance and everything, and then Lenny is like all upset about it or something, but he's there. What are they doing at the club?
He rides with Mace,
and that's the only reason he wants to go to the club is just to see her.
He wants to see.
He's hung up on her.
Faith. Mace is kind of like, geez, you really got to get over this, but it's somehow a disc. He gets a disc from a contact.
He gets a disc left in his car.
Well, that as well.
Oh, wait. No, that's the other one.
Right.
Yeah.
A disc gets Iris drops a disc in his car, but his car gets towed.
Yeah.
And Lenny tries to be like, hey, take a Rolex, but he just steals the car. I mean, tows the car.
Yeah.
So that disc is in the wind right now. And he gets another disc
delivered
at the nightclub. So maybe that's also why he's going there, because he's like picking up a new piece of product. And this disc is a horrifying scene where like it's Iris is being raped and murdered, and like Squid recording it at the like we said, there's this weird emotional transference angle to it.
The rapist has put the squid on her that hooks her up to what he is seeing, so that she's effectively watching her own assault, and
he's watching her like emotions, which he's getting a thrill out of it.
So fucked up.
You're watching
such
this.
A fucked up idea.
Yeah. I mean, it's a fucked up idea. Bigelow is obviously putting a lot of care into depicting this, like with as much sort of like naked horror as possible.
It's horrifying.
It is really intense.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying when I'm saying like she's not making this movie and thinking like this will be a blockbuster.
No,
because like that scene is. She's just not holding back at all.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how else
This is a very angry movie. Like, I think there was probably a point where there was a more straightforward version of this concept that she probably was hoping was a blockbuster.
Right.
Then she felt very riled up about the state of the world and started infusing all of that into it. And then I think that became a priority. I think at a certain point, She was just like, I have all this shit I need to say.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, and this is the part that rubbed the critics the wrong way, because I think a lot of people thought it was just purely exploitative without really going anywhere with it, or that it was just, like dark and disturbing, but, didn't, I guess, pick up on more of what she was trying to do with this idea of like voyeurism and the horror of being, of just rape culture in general, and the fact that like there is that latent part of all of it, like why people are fascinated with stories about women getting attacked. It feels like that's such a part and parcel of why this is about that specific crime and not another one. Although there is like another murder also, but like it feels like that's so why this movie exists.
I do find it fascinating that people were upset and felt like it was exploitative because, as you said, it's such a popular like storytelling trope, which is so annoying and so gross that people use sexual assault as like a plot catalyst or a motivator for someone else to get revenge. Or like this inarguable, horrible event, but it's usually dealt with in a way where you don't really have to engage with the crime itself. Yeah. And this movie is like, the whole point it's making is like, you can't back away from this. Like, you have to acknowledge this shit's going on. Yeah. And then people said you shouldn't have shown this.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, it's sort of like, I mean, I think the side of this that doesn't work is like, again, like going back to Detroit, like, which is also just upsetting and visceral in a way that I think went too far for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But and then the criticism around that is very much the same. It's like what you're just representing it, like, and you're making for a very unpleasant viewing experience.
Right.
But
why are you making us live through something we all agree is bad?
But I do think that those are such differently politicized like acts of violence.
Yes,
and the fact,
I agree.
and I think that you see close up racial violence much more in film than you do like a rape scene, or like you see one that actually grapples.
I was going to say you don't see a lot of rape scenes that are shot like this.
No,
right? Yeah,
no,
usually
no. I don't
are,
think that there are any other rape scenes that are shot like this. No, I mean, like, when I was leaving the screening of this at MoMA, like, there's like a, kind of older couple who are leaving, and you're like, that was a nasty piece of work about this film. And it totally is. It's just it's
grubby.
But I feel like it's grubby with a purpose.
I do too.
Yeah.
But also, like, Detroit is like if this sequence lasted for the central 80 minutes of the movie.
If that was the only thing,
that was going on. And this, like, the entire point is that the movie is forcing a man to watch and grapple with what's happening and not letting him get away from it.
Because we should mention, like, she's cross-cutting with Rafe Fiennes in the limo, freaking out at the sight of this.
Yeah. Right. It's like...
And kind of narrating for us, like, what the point of the squid transference is.
Also... one part of this I thought was fascinating. It was frustrating to watch, and then I was like, I know why, though. Like, why she did this is like, just take it off. Take it off.
Right.
Like, if you start to realize that you're watching a snuff film, you turn that shit off.
Sure.
I've never been in that situation before,
I've
but
been
I
in
would
that
imagine.
situation. You've been in that. You may not, but like on Twitter, when some fucking news breaks and suddenly a video starts auto-loading in your feed, and for a second you don't realize what's going on, and then you do, and you go like, at least I have always just been like, oh no, you know. But that's an experience we're now being confronted with.
Yeah.
Like that guy who shot those two news people, and filmed it and posted it right to Facebook or whatever, Twitter or whatever.
The Facebook guy.
That's what's going. Anyways, but sorry, finish your point.
But like he keeps watching, and I think that that's an important character detail about him.
Yes,
like I think, and I think that is what she's condemning. Also, is the fact that he keeps watching. One, because it's like his line of work, but also because he's a man, and like that's the culture that he's living in. And I think that that's like very. I don't know. I think that is subtle and also infuriating.
Yes, I agree. On both
and then I do actually also think it's interesting that we then see Sizemore not watching it right after, and he has this more like canned line where he's like, "Well, I don't want to eat lunch today," or whatever, and it's like, and of course, spoiler alert: Tom Sizemore is the rapist in the video.
I didn't pick up on that. I know obviously he's very bad, but I was still surprised. By that.
It's a good reveal.
But that
video is very well shot. The first one, that like the moment where you see him pulling the mask over. Yeah.
But I immediately, as soon as it's revealed, I remembered his reaction to that because it stuck in my memory. It was like, that's a callous thing that an asshole would say,
right? And it's a little canned. I mean,
That moment when it zooms in on her eye and you see the reflection of the mask
like killer.
Jesus Christ, is that upsetting?
Yeah.
It's really, really bad.
Yeah.
So they have this piece of evidence. I just got to move us along.
Yeah.
So Iris is, they get to the hotel, but Iris is already dead, right? We see her being taken away. So he takes it to Tick, Richard Edson.
My friend.
Yeah.
My
who's
big
like,
blue buddy.
I swear to God, like the same characters in Minority Report, which is another movie about, that involves POV,
This is the one performance in the movie that I think contains too much paprika.
He's definitely got a take.
And I like Richard Edison. I think he's a fun character actor. I think he's in a different movie than everyone else.
That's fine. I mean, I'm not going to argue with you.
Barely in it.
He's not in it much, so it doesn't really matter.
He's really big. Well, he's in the very beginning.
Yeah.
So you start with him, and I was like, okay, so is this the tone of the movie? Is everyone doing this kind of like elevated Supermanic camp thing?
Right.
And then it gets away from him, and then it comes back. It's like, oh, right, now this fits even less.
But so they go to Tick. Tick's like, well, Iris was looking for you. So they go to the car in the impound lot to retrieve her disc, which she dropped in there. And then there's this sort of like fiery shootout with D'Onofrio and Fichtner, who try to take down the limo, but Angela Bassett's got one over on them, drive it into the water.
She drives it into the water.
Damn right.
We should mention at this point.
That's kind of like what this movie has for an action sequence. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, the ending is.
Yeah, in the ending too. Yes.
We should mention that, originally the budget was presumed to be like $30 million, was estimated that ended up going $15 million over budget. Those extra $15 million were Catherine Bigelow invested film funds into mini discs. She was trying to make mini discs happen.
Did anyone else own a mini disc player? Because I had one.
No, I knew people who had them.
I had one.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time recording off the radio, transferring my CDs. Like, I really was like, no, this is going to work. It's going to be good.
That was like a summer.
Pretty
much.
And, obviously it was good because I used to walk to school listening to my Discman. And obviously if you just sort of, landed on your foot a little hard, there, the CD would skip. And with a Discman, with a mini disc, it didn't happen. And I was like, revolutionary technology of the future. What else do we need? This is all we did it, right?
It doesn't skip as often.
Right.
But it did,
you really had to like throw those things to make them skip.
But did music get released on it?
Yes, I owned OK Computer on mini disc.
Oh my
Wow.
God.
I remember Michael
Do you still
Jackson's
have
Invincible
that?
coming out.
Somewhere probably.
Oh, that's
Can
probably.
I have that?
if I ever found it, I'll give it to you.
Guys, we're watching a live squid trade right here. Disc trade.
But usually, obviously, no, you just bought the blank mini discs and like transferred your CDs over to them.
Right.
But no, I did buy OK Computer on mini disc. It has like a label on it, Yeah.
That's so cool.
Isn't it, not to go all like only 90s kids will get this, but
Sure.
like, isn't it weird to think that you used to have to like in the morning pick out like, okay, what are the only 12 songs I'm going to be able to listen to today?
I'm going to bring like 2 CDs with me today or whatever. Right?
And sometimes I'd like go to sleep and be like, remember in the morning to switch out Appetite for Destruction with Use Your Illusion 2. And then I'd forget and I'd go to school and I'd be like, oh, fuck, it's Appetite again. I got to just listen to Rocket Queen again.
Emily, do you have anything you
Unless you want to carry a CD wallet with you in your backpack.
Sure.
So you can
Some
flip on.
people did.
Yeah.
I don't have anything I wanted to add. I wanted to make sure that I had the plot right. That was all.
Thanks
for talking about mini discs for a while, so I could read.
Anytime. Literally anytime.
It's just they
My
finally,
pleasure.
after all this action, they watch Iris's discs, which is this political murder, essentially, by the cops of Jericho 1.
So Iris was wearing, she was just making a tape or making a disc for Lenny to sell to Lenny. The experience being, what if you were like one of Jericho 1's entourage, or like a girl who like was gonna fuck him or something, and like hanging out and partying. Apparently,
yes,
right? Because
that
they're
is
like
the only reason she was doing it, as far as
it's
I
like
can
Kim
remember.
Kardashian's mobile game, where it's like, what's it like to like be with Kim Kardashian for a day?
Sure.
How are you going to spend your gems?
Yeah. I mean, so it's unclear whether or not anybody else there knew that she was recording it. But so you see, like, they're getting in the car, they're gonna drive to the club or whatever, and then they get pulled over by our 2 favorite cops, and escalates quickly, and Jericho is killed.
Yes.
And so when we see Iris later running away, freaking out, she's run from that crime.
And when they pull her wig off and they see the squid thing, they realize she was filming it.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's all true. And it's
all true. It all really happened.
But I mean, again, this is like the part that when I was watching it, a few months ago, I was like, how did we have this movie this whole time?
Right. It's true.
Like,
1995, guys.
It's so prescient on so many different counts. And this feels like the most immediately like just hit yourself over the head. Like, holy shit. Like, this is it still feels as current as ever, as anyone would say, but also it like deals with this deals with this idea in like, yes, in sci-fi terms, but I think in like a more hands-on way than anything I've seen recently.
And it's barely sci-fi. I mean, that's sort of another appealing thing about this movie. It is
like
very
4 years in the future.
Specifically set 4 years in the future. She's not trying to depict a future world.
Yeah.
She's just like taking right now and turning up the volume a little bit.
Yeah. It also is like, he came up with this idea in 1986 when it was like, okay, we got 13 years until like the millennium. Like he wanted to do a Y2K movie.
Right.
And then by the time they finally get it made, it's like, okay, so we got 4 years. So,
right. But I mean, but she's watching the LA riots or whatever. And she's thinking like, the world is a little bit on fire.
Yeah.
Can I speak to the aesthetic really quick?
Please.
So I said before we were recording, what excited me about seeing this film is this is like pre-Apple.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, right.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know. It's like I haven't even really like grappled with it 100%. But
you mean pre-Apple ubiquity? Obviously Apple's around.
Sleek, clean feel.
Right,
I guess the example.
It was before technology
Strange
looked
DOS.
good. It's Strange DOS.
Strange
it is running
DOS,
on
baby.
DOS. Yeah,
exactly. And then you think of like her. Her is Apple aesthetic.
Yeah,
it's very designy.
Right.
Yeah, because you go like sci-fi essentially exists in like two phases, which are like
like Oblivion.
Right.
Sure, Oblivion, which is about a war with iPod.
Right.
Yes.
Oblivion is about what if iPods conquered the universe, conquered the planet at least, and Tom Cruise had to fight them.
Yeah.
Right.
But Melissa Leo was the queen iPod.
Is the queen iPod that you must like fly into and
right.
Hey, spoilers.
Spoilers, she's an evil dodecahedron. Yes.
She won the Oscar for that, right?
She did, best dodecahedron.
But there are, like, if you look at, like, the 70s sci-fi, right?
Sure.
You go, like, two pillars are, like, okay, there's the Logan's Run thing, right? Which is also sort of like the THX 1138, which is, like, very sterile.
Sure.
Very
The
clean.
future is we all wear, like, jumpsuits.
Right.
And, but also, like, we all have, like, totally casual sex with each other.
Sure.
Yeah. Because in Logan's Run, it's
kinky.
like you go to your apartment and you sort of, like, dial in your name and, like, a lady pops up out of an elevator.
Yeah.
Like... and she's like, "How you doing?"
But that's like light up cubes.
Yes,
a lot of light up cubes. Sure,
but that's like a sci-fi universe where there's one aesthetic that dominates everything.
Yeah,
like the technology, the fashion, the architecture, everything.
We
is
live
one
in a
side.
Bubble, sure.
Right,
Yeah,
and then you have like the Star Wars thing, which is like the very practical, lived-in machinery kind of junk thing.
I don't even know if Star Wars counts in the conversation about like sci-fi aesthetics.
I'll just say,
like
but like
Alien.
even like Alien, and Matrix, like this idea of like a very like you see how
hunks
it's built,
of junk.
right? Hunks of junk.
And I think Star Wars counts.
I guess so.
It
The
does.
Millennium Falcon. For sure.
That kind of thing.
All of it. It's dirty.
The dirty sci-fi. And then this movie is in this weird space where it's like mostly the world we know with like very practical, just like elements of technology, not even like a technology that's changed the way the buildings look or we dress or anything like that. But the stuff is just kind of banal looking.
Yeah.
Like it isn't like purposefully grody. It's not hunks of junk. And it's also not like Apple technology, like you said. It's just like some shit.
Yeah.
Emily, I want you to talk about the second club scene.
The second club scene?
No, you wanted to talk about the other club scene.
Take us to the club, Emily.
I was talking about the end.
Well, because that's where we're at now.
No, we're not.
Pretty much.
Wait.
I mean, well, all right. Well, you give me the plot then.
Wait, okay. So I feel like
because once they have the mini disc,
so we find out. Okay, so we find out that Jericho Wedden was killed by the cops.
Yes. We find out that Tick's brain has been like overloaded with squid.
Oh yeah,
like,
he like kind of
neurons.
just goes. Yeah.
He's not like dead, but he can't see anything except like static or whatever. It's sort of like a quasi.
Yeah.
Brain dead. I don't know.
So after all this, for some reason, I don't. This doesn't say how that happens, but Lenny does go to Mace's house, or like they're like hiding out in like
that's where they watch the Jericho 1 video. They watch it at Lenny's I think it's at Mace's brother's house or whatever. Yeah.
It's like a family cookout or something.
Yes, that is where they
and they were gonna just stay there and lay low, but then they're like,
oh shit,
we've got to go to this party.
Yes, there's a big party at the Westin
Bonaventure Hotel.
Correct.
One of my favorite places in Los Angeles.
Please tell us. I don't know anything about the Westin Bonaventure Hotel.
It's a storied
it's crazy
it's a storied
bunch
location.
Of glass tubes.
It is the what do you call it? The headquarters in Inception. Wherever they start off, like where Michael Caine is. It's like a mall. It looks like a mall inside.
Mm-hmm.
It is an incredible piece of.
You mean Interstellar, by the way, not Inception.
Yes,
Yes,
Interstellar.
yeah.
That's what I meant.
Yep, but yes.
It's just this insane, completely like irrelevant like future vision of what downtown LA was gonna be like, because it's like, okay, well, nobody walks in Los Angeles, so we'll like replicate the idea of a city
within
in this
buildings.
hotel,
right,
which is like a mall. It's like 5 stories that's like in this atrium. There are still businesses in there. There's a really good banh mi place in there.
Sure.
And but yeah, it's and you know it obviously failed. It was like not a good idea, but it still is like this, you know, like I guess not monolith, like quadrilith in the middle of downtown. Downtown LA.
It is kind of fascinating,
yeah. It's incredible.
It was originally owned by Mitsubishi, and now it's not. I don't know. It's run by like a hotel company.
But it's like a weird precursor to like, I don't know if people have gone to the Grove in Los Angeles.
I've been to the Grove, sure, yes.
Oh yes, Umami Burger. Or was it that Grove or that Umami Burger?
I've been to Umami Burger.
But like this idea of like well, we don't have the you know, experience of what one would consider a normal city or a normal like city experience. Let's build a little fake city that we can replicate it in.
In his book Postmodern Geographies: The Reassertion of Space in Critical Social Theory, Edward Soja describes the hotel as a concentrated representation of the restructured spatiality of the late capitalist city. There's much more of this that I would love to read. But
there's a really good clip, I think, on YouTube that's he might have had a hand in it, but there's a clip that just highlights all of the movies that this hotel's
True
in.
Lies shot in there too.
True Lies, yeah. There's a plaque for True Lies.
Cool.
And there's when you enter in through the parking garage, there's just like a hallway of all the movie posters that the hotel's been in.
That's
I don't
cool
know.
that they have pride.
Yeah. It's I mean, I love that place. I knew that it was in. I knew it played a part in this film, and I was thrilled that it was such a crucial part because it's great.
It's where Philo is throwing some big party for like LA's rich, to enjoy the millennium in peace, I guess. And the deputy commissioner is there, played by Joseph Summer, who's like always plays like presidents. You know what I mean? He's like one of those anonymous old guys. Faces, right? He doesn't play a president if your president's an important character. He plays your president if your president's in one scene and needs to just be watching a terrorist on the TV being
President,
like,
have you made your decision?
Yeah, because
you need him to deliver
he's
2 lines
in X-Men
about,
The Last Stand as the president. He's just, I could probably look how many, anyway. Or he plays your senators, your congressmen, etc. And this, he's a police commissioner.
So they're trying to get the.
They want to get the tape to him.
Yeah.
Because apparently he's one of the good guys.
I was just gonna say, X-Men has a weird series of like fictional presidents and real presidents. Because they have like people playing Nixon and Kennedy.
They do.
Right?
They do. Yeah.
But then they also just have like a bunch of generic guys like that who are just like, this is President
that's only
Mr. Man
in First Class though, right? Because it's
First Class has Kennedy,
and doesn't
one of them has
Nixon?
Days of Future Past has Nixon, but before then, they have fake presidents,
right?
Because there's also a president in X-Men 2 that Nightcrawler tries to stab.
Yes.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different presidents. So we split into 2. Mace has to go to the commish, not Michael Chiklis.
No, not. And I got excited, and it turned out false flag.
Lenny's going to go up to see Philo, but instead he finds Philo essentially dead with another squid disc, so he can get more exposition.
Yeah,
which is that Max fucking Sizemore and Juliette Lewis have been having an affair.
Yeah.
And they've killed him.
It's kind of a brilliant thing at this point, like filmmaking wise,
right?
That you have a flashback that like a device that is a literal flashback.
It's a flashback
in the
device.
same physical space.
Yes.
So he can take it off, and he's in the same. It's like having a VR that was shot in the room that you're sitting in.
Right.
Your main character is able to learn things conclusively that he was not there to witness.
It's like looking at a star. Like the light is a year old or whatever, but it'll get
nice
to you eventually. Yeah, that's a nice way of putting it. But right, because he walks in, Philo's basically dead.
Yeah.
He plugs in his mini disc.
Sees how he got dead.
First, he watches a sex scene. Then he realizes, oh, this is from the perspective of Tom Sizemore.
Yeah, and he
then
listens to a couple tracks from OK Cupid.
OK Cupid, great.
Fuck. I was gonna land that joke.
Let's take it again, okay?
Okay, cue me.
He's watching. Then it turns out Tom Sizemore's having sex with Juliette Lewis.
Right, and then he listens to a couple tracks from OK Go. God damn it!
Oh, come on.
No. All right.
But the song wasn't that memorable. But the video was incredible.
Yes, videos. Yeah.
And what is?
That's a one take.
You nailed it.
What is?
Congratulations, 10
I'll
comedy points.
admit, the dynamics at play in this are a little. I don't quite get it. They killed Philo because he wanted to kill Faith because she knew too much about Jericho or something. Like
I honestly don't remember this entire bit.
It's like it's so complicated, but the basic idea is like.
But she does not know.
She doesn't know
that Sizemore is the dude.
No, why would she? Because she hasn't seen.
She's
this
just
squid.
She's just
entangled with him.
Yeah, and I mean, what it ends up like her character arc, I will say, is probably a little disappointing because she ends up just being a piece of shit. Like, there's nothing. Yeah. There's no redeeming
She's not
thing
a villain.
She doesn't have any motivation either.
She has no motivation.
Her motivation is to suck.
She's kind of a red herring because you think, we're saying, you think,
she's
maybe
like this femme fatale or
she'll
something.
be a femme fatale and maybe he'll get back together with her. Nothing like that happens.
But it's a little
She's
annoying.
sort of a pawn.
Sure.
She gets basically sent out of the room, and then Tom Sizemore kills Philo by shooting him and is like, I'm going to frame you for this.
Yeah.
When you watch the squid of like their happy times together, she's not really talking much, but you get the sense that they like each other and there's like chemistry there or whatever.
Yeah.
And then from the moment you're actually dealing with her as a character in the present, she just sucks.
Yeah.
She hates him. She's really cold. Like,
and just like deliberately cruel and like needlessly. I mean, I guess he is like kind of stalking her, so I guess that would be pretty annoying.
Yeah, and like,
but,
you don't have to be nice to your exes, although, good move, a nice menschy move.
Yeah.
But it also feels like you're waiting for her to like warm up a little bit and be like, I'm going to remind you why we fell in love in the first place.
Yeah.
But the whole movie, it's just like, oh no, she sucks. You never should have been dating her in the first place.
Yeah. And I mean, that's why the film is more about growth than most movies with that kind of dynamic, because it is like, no, you shouldn't. You should not go back to the thing that you like that you're reminiscent of.
This is a step forward for him. That's the kind of person he should be with.
Yeah.
But I do like his fight scene with Tom Sizemore.
Yeah.
Because it is just two boys throwing each other around a hotel room. Right. There's nothing choreographed about this. And he kind of just gets him, right? I mean, he just sort of throws him over the balcony. Yeah. And Sizemore grabs his tie and he's like, I'm taking you with me. I think he sells that line really well.
Tom Sizemore good at desperation.
Exactly. Where you're like, oh yeah, this guy gets that he's going to die.
Yeah.
And he just wants to be vindictive in his last moments.
Yes.
Wait. So
the only problem I have is I was not surprised, not when I watched this movie for the first time in college, and not now when it turns out Sizemore's a bad guy. But he's Tom Sizemore.
He's Tom Sizemore.
Yeah. Right. I mean, I guess you would hope that people are playing against type to a degree.
That's true.
And this, like, Rafe is, maybe he'd be doing something else.
It's the Wonder Woman thing where the whole time you kept on leaning over to me and going like,
David Thewlis is up to no good.
No, you were saying about Danny Houston.
About
you were
Danny
like,
Houston.
Danny Houston, such obvious casting. They're tipping their hand.
My joke was, is he the bad guy?
Right. And it ends up like the movie is playing you in that way.
A little bit, right.
It would be nice if like Tom Sizemore, the only doubt you have about whether or not he'd be the bad guy is whether or not the movie would be that obvious to cast Tom Sizemore as the bad guy.
Yeah,
she
exactly.
just loves Tom Sizemore.
Yeah.
So what's going on in the rest of this party? So there's like a fancy party for like the fancy people in the hotel. I guess like on the maybe not. Is it in a penthouse or something, or is it on the ground floor? Or is it inside the hotel?
I think it's on the. I can't remember.
Yeah. So there's that. Then outside the the people, the peons of Los Angeles are having a total rave in the middle of downtown.
Right, in the streets.
Did you read about this?
No.
Oh.
Tell me, what do you mean?
Oh, boy. Okay. Wait. Okay, so the scene where the crowd celebrates the turn of the new century at the end of the film was shot at the corner of 5th and Flower Streets between the Westin Bonaventure Hotel and the Los Angeles Public Library.
Sure.
Over 50 off-duty police officers were hired to control an assembled crowd of 10,000 people
Whew.
who had to pay $10 in advance to attend the event.
Sure.
The filmmakers also hired rave promoters Moss Jacobs and Philip Lane to produce performances featuring Aphex Twin, D-Light, as well as all the cyber techno bands they could garner.
That's actually, I gotta say, really smart producing.
Yeah, $10.
To create a circumstance where
Yeah.
extras have to pay to be in the movie.
Yeah.
But like put on a real
But it's
concert.
basically right.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a concert.
Yeah.
It's gonna be the most tech noir concert there
Yeah.
ever was.
Right.
It's gonna be the most. I already forgot the name. Retina.
Retinal fetish?
Retinal fetish.
Yeah.
Retinal fetish, even better than retinal fetish. It was reported that a total of $75,000 was spent on the event,
Wow.
and half of the 1,300 rooms in the Bonaventure were rented out. The event started at 9 p.m. on a Saturday night, ended shortly before its scheduled end at 4 a.m. as 5 people were hospitalized for suffering overdoses of the drug ecstasy.
Oh, I'm stunned to hear this.
Yeah, really, 1995.
10,000 people. There were some ecstasy ODs. I mean, I hope they were all okay.
I
Obviously.
cannot believe they let her make this movie.
It's
like
insane.
everything
It
we're
is
just
crazy.
describing
That
is
is
like,
crazy.
how did they fucking let her make this
This
movie?
is a 20th century Fox film. Just to be clear, yeah, it's
and
not
they
like
threw a rave in the middle of
Yep.
It's not Fox Searchlight.
no,
Right,
no.
Right.
But
it looks fantastic.
it's wonderful.
It's an
It
expensive
looks
looking movie.
It
very
looks
expensive.
like there's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Partying.
And these huge lights that say like 2000 on them, like counting down the new year. It's like such a spectacle. I love
Yeah.
it.
And then there's this. I mean, I find the finale really scary, where Mace
Yeah.
is getting beaten up
Yeah.
by the cops, and no one sort of knows what to do.
Yeah.
You know, it's. I mean, obviously,
She's just all by herself.
right. And
She's
Bigelow's
just-
trying to draw, I think, a straight line
Yeah.
to real
Like,
events.
it's just going to happen again. Like, yeah.
And then there is this hopeful, maybe too easy, but whatever. I mean, it's a movie. Note where the commissioner's like, arrest these men.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
But
Because I
until
guess he went off and watched.
he watched this
the
tape.
disc.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, the tape's pretty incriminating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like that the same cops who are basically sanctioning D'Onofrio and Fichtner wailing on her are then like, oh, okay. Like it's not like
Yeah.
there are new cops who come in
Sure.
to arrest the bad cops.
Yeah.
It's because there's these cops who are in like military uniforms with
Yeah.
like helmets and stuff. They're just like,
Right.
okay, no, okay, I guess we'll arrest them.
Yeah.
And so is it D'Onofrio reaches for a gun and gets himself shot, and Fichtner
Yeah.
shoots himself?
Shoots himself. Yeah.
It's pretty gruesome.
Yeah. Well, they're
I mean,
bad cops.
No, they're
no good guys.
I mean, not
no
a fan.
good, very bad. Don't do it. I will say this. I found this movie so dense, and I don't say that in a bad way. There's just so much fucking going
There's a
on
lot.
in terms of the story and what she's getting
It
at and the
earns its
style of it.
runtime.
Agreed.
There's
Yeah,
stuff.
It's 220.
There's a lot of stuff in it.
Agreed. But I'll say, like, this is the first time I think I've felt while doing a mini series that I need to rewatch a movie before we do our final rankings.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't feel I would be equipped to rank this within her filmography just because I watched it when I was tired and I don't feel like
Yeah.
I fully comprehended
This
everything
is
she's
my
doing. in this.
favorite movie of hers without too much.
Right now, I have no idea where I would place it.
All right.
I liked the movie. It is very strange. But I just feel like it's the kind of
Very
movie
DOS.
that you need to sort of keep coming back to really reckon with
Yeah.
in a lot of ways.
No, I'm a little disappointed. I didn't even get to rewatch it before doing this podcast with you guys. I mean, I didn't watch all of it, but
Sure.
like it's a long. It takes a long
So
time to
it
sit through.
takes a lot out of you
Yeah.
watching this movie.
Oh, it does.
Yeah,
for
this
sure.
movie could do with an intermission if I was seeing it in a theater.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it needs an intermission. That's ridiculous, but it's not a slog though. It's
Yeah.
just
No,
just
it's
a
not. No, I was
lot
saying
of cooking.
It's a lot of stuff.
to producer Bane before you guys came.
Purdue Bane, but go on.
Purdue Bane. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
Sorry.
It's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
So embarrassed.
You corrected me on
Uh-huh.
Strange DOS. I correct you on Purdue Bane.
But we were just talking about like the fact that you feel like it's got that thing of like the false ending or like a second ending when before they go downtown and go
Mhm.
to the party. But then once that starts, I'm like, oh, I totally want to be here for this part. Like this is going to be
Yes.
really
Yeah.
exciting.
You're right. You don't.
Like-
it doesn't feel like, oh God,
Yeah.
another act.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
It's. But nonetheless, this movie because we're going to play the box office game now, was an colossal bomb.
Huge failure.
It cost $42 million to make. I'm sure it cost more money to market and so on and so forth. Came out October 6th, 1995. It grossed $7.9 million. That is bad.
So the weekend before, they had released it in one theater and it did a pretty good per screen average. But that's weird for them to release a movie like this in one theater.
The question I have is, do you want me to do the one theater? You know what?
Let's do the proper wide release.
We'll do the proper. They're actually very similar anyway, so it doesn't matter. This movie, though, well, I won't. We'll talk about it afterwards.
Okay.
So
what number does Strange Days open at?
When it expands, number 8.
Jeez.
$3.6 million.
Bad.
Yep. This is Columbus Day weekend. So, okay, what were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say, like, I mean, I've seen those posters, but I just, like, can't even imagine what a campaign for this would be.
Right.
Well, those posters, as much as I like those images, those, like, headshots they have of the actors, those posters feel like a shrug of a marketing department that's like, I don't know how to fucking sell this movie. Put the 3 actors on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I love that poster, but yeah.
It's a well-shot image, but it gives you no context.
This is the kind of, like, you know how they do all those, like, redesigned posters or special edition posters of things? Like, a lot of those are for things that already have great posters. This one should have.
This could use, like, a Mondo, like, fucking limited run.
My pitch, it's a Lisa Frank. Incorporates, like, that design into the poster.
It's a Trapper Keeper.
Yeah, totally.
With Lisa Frank creatures on it.
Yes.
Okay.
One thing I want to say is, because I was going to say,
our finest poster designer.
Our finest graphic designer.
Yeah. He's the best.
Okay, one thing you want to say
is because when I was thinking about this, I was like, gee, it's an R-rated movie. But then you look at the top 10, every single movie in the top 10 is rated R.
Whoa.
Because it's October, and it's just back in the day when Hollywood was like, well, the family movies have their place on the schedule.
Right.
The PG-13 movies have their place. But, like, R-rated movies are bread and butter.
And it was like you only released populist...
I'm sorry. There's one movie that's not R-rated.
Okay, that's
PG-13.
crazy, though.
Yeah.
But, like, populist 4-quadrant movies you release in the summer or over the holidays. And then at this time of year, you'd either have movies for grown-ups or children's films. Like cut and dry.
Yeah, there was much more of like siloing.
Yes.
Anyway, so number 1 at the box office is an out-of-the-box, somewhat surprising hit, a crime thriller, a very hard R, that in its 4th week, and I think it's been like number 1 every week.
7?
Yeah, has made $57 million. Yeah. 7. David Fincher's 7.
Surprise hit, and it stayed the fuck in there.
Huge hit, made $100 million in 95.
It's nuts for that movie.
That movie is also, very 90s.
Very 90s.
What do you think of 7, Emily?
I have not seen 7 in any time recently, not since high school or something. I don't know. I don't think my opinion on it is valid anymore.
Yeah, like I feel like I'm like totally fine with 7. I think it's pretty hard to. Yes. It's also like hard to put it in the context of what it must have felt like coming out at that point in time if you'd seen it in theaters opening weekend. Yeah. Like I watch it now and I'm like, okay, yeah, it's solid. It's well done.
Sure. It's a much imitated movie these days as well, obviously.
Yes.
Right. But 7. Okay, number 2 is a cruddy action movie starring like one super established star who's maybe a little on the way in at this point, and one up and coming European star.
Interesting. Is the European star, are they both male?
Yeah. And this movie was written by some friends of ours.
Written by some friends of ours?
I mean,
people we've covered. It is Assassins?
Richard Donner's Assassins.
Written by the Wachowskis, Antonio Banderas. And then who's the main person in it? Kurt Russell?
Sly Stallone,
right.
Which was a bomb, huge bomb. Made $30 million on a $50 budget.
See, I didn't even remember that was a Stallone movie. I just knew it was Banderas and Wachowski's.
It's not a movie.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think there's like a lot to that movie.
I don't think so.
It's like, what if there were assassins?
Never seen it. Probably will never watch it in my life. Yeah.
Julianne Moore's in it.
Oh, yeah.
Young Julianne Moore. All right. Number 3 is a really crazy movie, which I kind of like. It's like an epic, quasi-epic crime movie directed by these like hot young directors who had like a surprise hit.
2.
They're a pair. They're a pair of directors.
Are they brothers?
Yes.
Are they the Coen brothers?
No.
They're brothers.
This movie, I mean, I'm sure you know it.
Oh, the Hughes brothers?
The Hughes brothers, Albert and Alan.
Dead Presidents?
Dead Presidents.
I've never seen it.
That's a pretty good movie.
Okay.
Which is their blank check after Menace to Society. Not that it costs like a lot of money.
Yeah.
But it's this sort of like Vietnam movie about people coming back after, back to the Bronx, and like sort of like how America like let that neighborhood down, let that borough down, and
that sounds good.
Like the rise of sort of like gang violence, and like it's a flawed movie, but I think it's pretty interesting.
They've certainly had weird careers. Yeah.
What weekend are you looking at?
I'm looking at October 13th.
Oh, 13th.
1995.
Okay.
Why, Emily? Are you trying to cheat?
No, I'm not playing. I would never get any of these, so I just want to know what they are out of curiosity.
It's Columbus Day weekend. 1995.
Big movie going.
Well, this is what I'm saying, which is apparently just like R-rated movie time.
So, I mean...
Okay.
That's why, like, Seven at the time was one of the only September movies to end up making $100 million.
Sure,
like a September release to actually cross 100, and now we have September movies that open over 100.
Well, that's a new phenomenon.
Welcome September, baby.
So number 4 is it's based on a hit book, sort of like a weepy drama. I've never seen it.
In it.
It's got ladies in it.
Multiple ladies in it?
Like 400 ladies in it. There's so many ladies in this movie.
It's not like Fried Green Tomatoes.
No, but you're it's
not Steel Magnolias.
No, that's earlier.
I hadn't thought about this movie.
It's it's
from a female director who has recently made a terrible movie.
Recently in our current day timeline?
Yes.
She made a terrible movie that came out this year.
Nah, a couple years ago. I mean, you wouldn't even remember it or know who she, like, I'd be surprised if you know who she was.
Is it Waiting to Exhale?
No. That's a Forrest Whitaker movie.
Oh, right.
Isn't it? Am I wrong
I think
about
so.
that?
And he did Hope Floats as well,
Yep,
right?
It's Forrest Whitaker. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He was the king of the Weepies for a couple years.
He made some good Weepies.
It's got a lot of women in it.
Stars an actress we both are very fond of. It's just got the most goofy, hilarious title.
Yeah.
It's a real, like, I feel like it's a bit of a punchline to, like, 90s kind of softcore dramas. How do you describe the real...
there is a genre of this kind of title.
Yeah.
That I feel like Salmon Fishing in the Yemen is
So it's kind of like a sentence title like that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Salmon Fishing in the Yemen is a good... good partner to this one. If you did like a rep screening series, movies with full sentence titles,
or like full phrases,
right,
like an
full
idea,
phrases,
an entire,
mm-hmm. Like the Divine Secrets of the Yaya Sisterhood.
I feel like I have the meter of the title in my head, and I can't think of what the words.
All right,
are.
I got to give it to you because we're running out of time.
Give me the actress,
Winona Ryder.
Oh fuck!
Oh wow! If you don't have it from this, then I can help you.
Yeah. Just give me
how to make
an American quilt. Right? Of course.
America was asking Hollywood, tell us how do we make an American quilt?
And then Hollywood answered. Everyone was like, "Oh, actually, I'm good."
Yeah, no, it's fine. But it did okay.
Yeah.
Let me just the cast of this movie: Winona Ryder, Anne Bancroft, Ellen Burstyn, who once told Griffin to try silence, Kate Nelligan, Alfre Woodard, Maya Angelou, Kate Capshaw, Samantha Mathis, and then Rip Torn is hanging out there.
Rip Torn, the only person whose name is 2 tenses of the same action.
You think you've made that joke before.
I'll make it as many times as I can.
Number 5, opening this week, is a sex thriller that is a sexy sex thriller of 1995, starring some of the sexiest actors.
Woody Harrelson?
No. Good guess.
I thought it was whatchamacallit. The Demi Moore, Robert Redford.
Indecent Proposal.
Right, it's
not
that.
that. No, it's a real sex thriller.
Disclosure?
No, good guess. It was a movie made by a TV star who was it was his first big jump into movies.
Oh, is it David Caruso and Jade?
Jade. Some fantasies go too far. That's the tagline to Jade. A William Friedkin joint.
Yeah.
Starring our favorite.
David Caruso?
No. Linda Fiorentino.
Yeah.
The queen of 90s, like, pot boilers, like, sex pot boilers.
Still, for my money, the single best joke in 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Yeah. To be like David Caruso and Jade.
Oh, got it.
Yeah. That is a good joke. Chaz Palminteri, Michael Biehn.
Yeah, some of our sexiest actors.
So that's the top 5. So what I wanted to say was that, this has 3 movies opening, if you count Strange Days, that are notorious, not sexy, but like explicit R-rated
These are
bombs.
adult.
I really take issue with Strange Days being billed as an erotic thriller.
I'm not really. It's tough to lump them all together. But I think Hollywood lumped them together as these movies that were like too much.
Sexy grown-up.
Too hard R, like too excessive.
Yeah.
Jade, The Scarlet Letter, and that movie are all movies where it was like, no, we got to reel it back.
Yeah.
We got to make broader audience movies. And you can't just like get him in the theater with like,
and a big box office sea change happens a month later. The top film of 1995 comes out, and I would say it's one of the movies that changed the film industry.
Which is?
Toy Story.
But you know what? That's so interesting.
Right? Because once you make animated films that adults like.
I know what you're saying.
That's true.
Yeah.
Some of the other movies in this are To Die For, which is it's more of a comic sex thriller.
A great movie.
That movie's awesome.
It rules.
You got Devil in a Blue Dress, which is a movie I'm a huge fan of.
Yeah, I've never seen
Carl
that.
Franklin.
Yeah, I like Carl Franklin.
Sort of neo-noir with Denzel and Don Cheadle, who's so good.
Good actor.
Halloween, gonna say 5?
Yeah, because
the one with Paul Rudd.
Oh, right, yeah.
The Curse of Michael Myers.
Because H2O comes out a couple of years after this, right?
It's the 6th, sorry.
Okay.
Anyway, so yeah.
Another interesting piece of context I don't think we've talked about at all for this
Please
film,
serve it up. I'm a connoisseur.
that it came out a week after the verdict of the O.J. Simpson trial.
Oh, that's actually huge.
That's a huge, and it was while they were making
they were
that
filming
was
it while that was
when
happening.
the Bronco chase happened.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Huh.
It's interesting to look at the post-OJ box office. Not that I don't think it probably actually had that much of an impact, but
I guess who knows? Maybe.
But like the fact that it's like all R-rated movies in the top 10.
I know.
The week after that, it feels very dark.
And Angela Bassett is married too. Who can tell me?
In real life?
Yeah.
Still?
Yeah.
Fuck, who's she married? Who's she married?
Now I want to double check. Yeah. Courtney B. Vance. Who so wonderfully
really?
played Johnny Cochran in American Crime. They've been married for 20 years.
I didn't know.
That's a fantastic
idea.
couple.
Well, there you go.
It is interesting though. I mean, you were saying like this movie is so primed for a reevaluation, but it also feels like the kind of movie where it's like, how have they not like restored this and made this readily available? Like you look at how the last 2 years there was like this OJ wave of like, oh, this is the cyclical thing. This whole trial represented this thing that was going on in our culture, and now it's reared its head again. And it reflects so many different aspects of like our relationship with the media and fame and wealth and race and success and power and gender dynamics and violence. And this movie is like all of that shit.
Yeah.
Why can't we watch it legally?
Yeah, no. Oh, totally.
Two successful OJ TV
I do
shows.
think we've talked about this off mic. Like the Lightstorm thing might be part of it. James Cameron. Movies he's produced, he likes to make sure like the re-releases are remastered and like, you know, properly transferred or whatever. Well, it's the same. Like, why don't we have an Abyss? I think he takes forever on it. I don't know if that's true of this movie because I don't know.
How hands-on does he really want to be with it? Like,
I have no idea.
It's not his.
I hear he's going to re-release Strange Days in 3D in one theater.
I mean, I've actually not looked at all into how she feels about it, her feeling about its legacy or anything like that.
I think she's very proud of it. I mean, it's
a great movie.
She seems to speak highly of it and thinks it was the movie she wanted to make, and it totally was like an albatross around her neck.
It was. I mean, because you know she doesn't make another movie for 5 years, and then that movie is The Weight of Water,
right? Which doesn't
come out for 2 more years, so she doesn't have a movie in theater for 7 more years.
2 months after the release of her highest budget film, which is also her biggest flop.
Sure, K-19,
right?
I mean,
combined with this.
This movie's a pretty big flop, though.
You're obviously experts in people who, make bad movies and get punished for it and never get to make movies again. Like it happens a lot, right?
Yes,
all the time.
Yes,
directors make horrible mistakes and lose lots of money and then never get to work again. That's what this podcast is about.
Yeah, right. It's like
right.
I don't know if you guys are picking up on this a little note of sarcasm.
That's the end of the story, right? She made Strange Days, it bombed. She made Indie, it bombed, and then she did a big submarine blockbuster.
But I'm saying, like, in all seriousness, in the course of this podcast, has there been like a 5-year break?
No,
it's very
I don't
rare.
think
Like,
so.
For people who made
if you look at like
much
Shyamalan,
worse.
who made like 4 bombs in a row, he made
Right.
a movie every couple of years practically.
Cameron Crowe had a bit of a gap in there, but I don't think it was as long. From Elizabethtown to We Bought a Zoo is maybe 5 years.
That's 6 years, but that might be Cameron Crowe's.
That seemed to be more his doing.
Cameron Crowe seems to have a lot of shit in his head,
Right.
Because Tom Cruise had to tell him to make We Bought a Zoo,
Right. But
which is a sentence that one rarely says.
You imagine that she was trying to make movies regularly. And then there's even, I
don't know. I think she talks about The Way to Water. It's hard to, we got to wrap up. But,
sure.
Yeah.
But there's a long gap between K-19 and Hurt Locker as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, we'll talk about it on the Hurt Locker.
We'll talk about it on the Hurt
Yeah,
Locker.
for
That's
sure.
a longer break.
That's
Yes.
a long break,
Yeah.
and I think that is her toughest
Yeah.
period in terms of trying to get money together for a movie.
And then she wins a fucking Oscar.
She does.
It's an
Quite a
amazing
story.
comeback story. Yeah.
Yep.
We'll talk about that another time, though. Emily, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
We're still, it's this neck and neck race of you, J.D. Amato, and Richard Lawson all being tied as our like 3
recurring guests.
our best friends of the show, our favorite guests, the fan favorite guests.
Of course, you'll be back.
Is there a poll?
Oh, come
We
on.
would
Can I
never.
campaign?
We would never.
You can put a campaign.
But if you want to start a poll, you can do it.
Well, thank you. It's always fun.
You've been doing unbelievable work at Vulture, and I'm not just saying that. I have been really blown away by a couple of your reviews. I feel like you've had a couple things. The one I cite all the time, your analogy in your Fate of the Furious review, when I was trying to explain to people why I was a little underwhelmed by that movie, the idea that Jordana Brewster and Paul Walker were the bread and the sandwich, and you got a bunch of loose meat if you don't have them there. How they were never the most exciting characters, but they weirdly held the whole thing together.
They're the bread and the mayonnaise, I believe.
I quote it incessantly. The best take I have read from a film critic all year.
All right. We're done, right? That's it.
We're done, of course.
This podcast is brought to you by Mac Weldon.
Right.
Want to mention that?
Yeah, I mean, they brought it to you, in
you
the same
want
way
it.
they're going to bring those clothes to you.
Yeah, that's right. So,
and if they can clean up Tom Sizemore, they can clean you up. I promise. I don't care who you are.
Mm-hmm.
That's the guarantee.
Yeah.
That's the blank check guarantee.
Yeah.
Please remember to rate, review, subscribe. Go to reddit.blankies.com or the other way around, blankies.reddit.com for some real nerdy shit. Thanks to Ange Fergudo for our social media, Joe Bone and Pat Reynolds for our artwork, Lane Montgomery for our theme song, and as always, this computer runs on strange DOS.
Hey, just a quick note here at the end of the episode. At the time of this recording, our garbage nightmare, horrible, cretinous president today tweeted about the U.S. not being able to aid Puerto Rico forever. So we as fellow not terrible human beings need to do our part in assisting with relief efforts. And we're asking that our listeners donate to any of the proper organizations such as the Hispanic Foundation, the Puerto Rican Hurricane Relief Fund, the Food Bank of Puerto Rico. Now, we have a fellow Blankie in Puerto Rico named Emilio, and on behalf of myself and #the2friends, we just want to offer our support and prayers to his family and loved ones.